6 a.m. in the Mile High City. Good morning, Denver. That alarm clock is ringing, or you are on your way to work. You are a producer. You are making it happen, and you've tuned in to the Jeff and Bill Show, 710 KNUS. I'm your co-host, Jeff Hunt, along with Bill Thorpe, bringing you the freshest insights and hottest takes from the right, left, center, and crazy. It's going to be a nicer day today in Colorado than it was yesterday. Man, it was snowing when I went to bed last night out in Elizabeth.
Yeah, no, I had rain basically where we were. Yeah, it was just wet this morning. Not too bad, but nice to have the rain for the grass and everything else kicking off. So
58 degrees, partly cloudy today. Wednesday, Thursday, Friday is going to get warmer. Saturday,
it's good.
Some showers in the PM, and then Sunday and Monday, rain and morning snow. Because we just won't give it up.
No, and March is like this, but we'll see.
We're not even in March anymore.
Well,
we're in April.
That's true. I forget. We change it over the calendar.
What's brutal is like DC is in the middle of cherry blossom season. You'd be shorts, polo shirt down at the.
You can do shorts today.
Down at the
kind of Colorado person are you? You can do shorts when it's like
dude,
60.
I gave that up, man. I was never one of those guys. We're gearing up for a whole morning of engaging discussions, critical analysis, most importantly, your calls and texts, because this is where Denver's voice is heard loud and clear. It's the only show where you are able to call in and share your opinion on the topics we're talking about. So give us a call, 303-696-1971, 303-696-1971, or text us on the 710 KNUS app. Go to the App Store, download the app. You can text us right there. So grab your coffee, Denver, and let's dive into the issues that matter most to you right here, right now. Bill, yes. I heard the governor of Virginia the other day cite a study I authored.
Really?
Absolutely.
Yeah, cool.
I was so proud of that.
Wow, nice job.
I've been fighting the fight on the stupidity of commercializing pot for almost a decade now, 8-9 years. Okay. And we authored this big study that came out. It made a ton of news. We briefed the White House on this. The White House sent this study to the United Nations. We looked at the ratio of tax dollars collected by the state versus the social costs associated with commercializing marijuana. So if we have to go out there and spend all this money to deal with it, right? So not just government money, but social money. We have to deal with an increase in emergency room visits because of pot consumption, or car accidents, or loss of work productivity, or kids dropping out of school, right? So society having to deal with all this versus the amount of tax revenue, because what was often put forth in all these debates on marijuana was we're going to get all of this tax revenue. We're going to we're going to pave our streets with gold, and this is already happening in the black market. We can at least get some tax revenue. What we found is that essentially for every $1 that we collected in tax revenue, we spent $4.50 dealing with the effects of pot. So it was a net loser by about 4x. And so if you expand pot, you essentially expand that as well. And this is the governor of Virginia vetoing recreational pot just over the weekend.
Today, I have vetoed the bill to create a commercial retail market for cannabis. Cannabis is bad for Virginia. And in all the other states that have had an extensive retail market, what you see is, first, it's terrible for children and adolescents' health and safety. Massive increases in child poisonings, massive increases in adolescent usage. And of course, when you combine that with the fact that the potency of cannabis today is dangerous, it drives mental health challenges and mental health sickness to the point of psychosis. There's also been a systematic increase in these states in violent crime. Of course, the black market doesn't go away. I mean, in California, the legal retail market only accounts for 10% of the entire cannabis market. And therefore, gang activity escalates and violent crime increases. And that's on top of the fact that that you see traffic accidents and fatalities increase over 70% in marijuana-related accidents. And then finally, you couple this with the reality that the overall costs through the system in order to address the social requirements of this retail market far outweigh the tax receipts. And in fact, a study in Colorado found that Colorado spends $4.50 for every $1 that it brings in tax receipts. And so the entire argument that this could possibly be good falls down on every front. Cannabis is bad for Virginia. The law enforcement community does not want it. Healthcare workers do not want it. And let me tell you, parents do not want it in their children's lives.
And I think you alluded to this down in Richmond. Some Democrats say this would be good for the economy, legalizing the sale of marijuana. But I think you told them, hey, you have a better deal on the table. And that was the monumental deal.
Let's go work on creating good jobs and growing opportunity, as opposed to pretending that collecting taxes from a pot shop on every corner is good business. It's bad for Virginia. And in fact, the winning states are not doing this. And we need to make sure that we're keeping our children and our communities safe. And we need to make sure that we're not subjecting them and endangering them to health and public safety issues.
The winning states are not doing this. Do you agree with Governor Youngkin on this, the governor of Virginia, in vetoing recreational commercialized marijuana? Look back on Colorado. I'd love to hear from the callers here at 710 KNUS. Give us a call. When you look back on the decision we made back in 2012, so going on a decade now, over a decade, was that a good decision for Colorado? Was that an inevitable decision for Colorado? Has it made Colorado better? Do you agree with Youngkin that winning states do not do this? 303-696-1971, 303-696-1971, or text us on the 710 KNUS app. We're going to check in on the news with Blake Olson. Good morning, Blake.
Morning, Jeff. I agree with you. That was the start of our demise. 33 and clear in Denver, expecting sunny skies and highs in the upper 50s today. The 7-10 5-day forecast is coming up. Our top story, the city of Denver will close 3 of the remaining 4 hotel shelters for illegal immigrants this week. Denver expects to spend $120 million to house illegal immigrants this year, which, remember, the mayor said they're saving $60 million.
How about no?
The world keeping a close eye on the Middle East as Israel strikes Iranian embassy, killing 3 top commanders in Damascus on Monday. Colorado lawmakers considering a new bill that would expand bias crime laws to crimes related to gender identity and expression. It passed the first step on Monday. State Senator Chris Hansen is a prime sponsor of the bill. August Romero is being held in Adams County on a first-degree murder charge. He is the suspect who ran over and killed Robbie Valenzuela on Saturday in Westminster. Tricia Calvarisi won nearly 65% of the vote last night and will be the Democratic nominee to run in the special election to fill Ken Buck's seat in CD4. A man is in custody after ramming his car into the security gate of an FBI office in Georgia, north of Atlanta. And the Florida Supreme Court ruling that the state constitution doesn't protect abortion rights. Florida will have some of the stricter abortion rules in the country. The judge in former President Trump's Manhattan trial case issues a partial gag order. He says that Trump cannot attack DA Alvin Bragg or witnesses, prosecutors, court staff, or their relatives, especially on social media. The news brought to you by Lair Fireplace and Patio, Denver's premier source for everything fireplace, patio, and grills, locally owned and operated since 1954, online at lairfireplacepatio.com. 30 in Littleton, 28 in Arvada, 33 in Denver. Nuggets playing host to the Spurs tonight. The Avalanche lose to the Blue Jackets 4-1. And the Rockies shut out by the Cubs 5-0. Rocks are 1-4 opening day at Coors Friday at 2:10. The Astros, Ronel Blanco with the first no-hitter of the 24 season. Houston beat Toronto 10-0. All right, Jeff and Bill, continue.
Blake,
yes.
Did you see LSU was not on the floor during the national anthem last night?
I did not see that. I didn't have a chance to see. I know that Caitlin Clark and Iowa won the game, so they didn't stand out there for the national anthem.
I don't know if it was deliberate. It was all over Twitter late last night.
I did not see that.
But Iowa was out there holding hands during the national anthem. LSU was in the locker room. Are those protests still continuing?
Well, I don't know. Not that I know.
I didn't know that, but Caitlin Clark, man.
But
Dude,
it's an election year,
amazing.
So here we go. Yeah, Caitlin Clark is incredible. She's the biggest story in sports right now. People don't like to see that, including LSU. So who knows why they did it? But they have a lot of issues going on with LSU.
Blake, has women's basketball changed in the sense like I never really watched it. But to be fair, I didn't watch a lot of the dudes basketball either. I watched that. But this year I seem to be pretty captivated, not just by Iowa, but I was watching the other game, UConn versus USC. Yeah, they had some good players too. They were fun. It was fast paced. It was, I don't know, maybe has it changed?
Well,
is it just
no, the skill level is extremely high. There's no doubt about it. And they can shoot. So if you're not playing above the rim, like women, the men play above the rim. Women don't. And so you better be able to shoot. And they are incredible shooters, ball handlers. It just continues to improve year after year. And as we talked about maybe a couple weeks ago, the floor is spaced out a little bit more because the bodies aren't as big, of course, and it's enjoyable. It's very entertaining product, and a lot of good things happening with women's college basketball. But I didn't know that about LSU, and that kind of makes me angry. So thank you for getting me started here this morning, Jeff. All right, back to Jeff and Bill. Blake Olson, News Talk 710 KNUS.
The 710 5-day forecast calls for some very pleasant spring weather here in Denver and along the Front Range for the next few days. Warming to the upper 50s and sunny today. Breezy north winds, clear tonight, low to mid 30s. Mostly sunny Wednesday, good-looking day, mid to upper 60s, upper 30s Wednesday night. Highs will be low 70s Thursday, low 70s Friday, and we're looking at temperatures starting Saturday mild, but Saturday night and Sunday sharply colder with showers. Meteorologist Don Day, 710 KNUS.
All right, the governor of Virginia, Glenn Youngkin, deciding to veto a bill that would have commercialized marijuana in Virginia, citing that winning states don't do this. Do you agree with him? Is Colorado a losing state because they did commercialize pot?
And pardon me, the head coach at LSU said there was nothing intentional about not being out there during the anthem. She said that basically they have a pregame routine at every game. She said, I apologize. I have no idea when the anthem was going to be played. We leave the court at 12 minutes till the tip-off, and we go into the locker room every game, and then we have pregame warm-ups and some other stuff. When we have some talks, we did not know. They said it is not intentional. However, isn't it interesting how many people assumed it? Isn't it interesting?
Well, I mean, we went through that.
Oh,
we went through teams particularly protesting that.
But isn't it interesting?
It's
and
not
the
like
information,
it's out of the blue.
I know, but the information I got, though, was also from New York Post. So it's not some liberal rag. that is reporting this. And so but I just think that is an interesting filter. How many people you encountered on social media that immediately jumped to the conclusion that there was a protest? And in part, I believe it's because of who was wearing the purple jerseys. I think they made an assumption based on the purple jerseys.
That it was race-based?
Yeah.
The decision was race-based?
Yeah, yes. I believe the assumption, my personal feeling, is the individuals that assumed LSU was doing this as a national anthem protest made that assumption based on the race of the players that are predominantly on LSU versus Iowa.
Yeah, I mean, that's a bit of conjecture. I mean, part of it is that we went through this.
I know, but why
would years of teams protesting the national anthem?
But why would you assume?
Because we did that. Because
I know, but LSU hasn't done that the entire season. There's a history of it. But all of a sudden, when some team isn't out there now we assume the worst of them.
Oh, we just assume that they're protesting.
I know, exactly. I mean, assume the worst. Assume the worst of them.
The coach could have made that a priority. Look, whatever pregame routine we're going to go through, we are going to make sure that we're on this floor for the national anthem.
And I would say that, and you've been involved in team sports too. In those type of situations, your pregame routine to me is much more important than changing the pregame routine. That screws things up. If you have certain things that happen on a pregame routine,
out well for him yesterday.
Oh no, I didn't say it did, but I'm just saying that mentally, there's certain things you do at certain times as you're getting, especially when you're talking about a Final Four type of an idea. You don't mess up the preparation that day. That's one of the things that the coaches always talk about going to the Super Bowl, that the prep is so changed because of the extra time and all of the press things that you have to do. They say the actual time and the prep work that we normally walk through is changed so much, it's very difficult to get them primed for the game, also based on kickoff time and a bunch of other stuff and a longer halftime. So the last thing I would do would be change the routine if I'm walking into a big game like that. If I was a coach, wouldn't want to change the routine for anything. No way would I. But that's personal.
I feel like if you're at that level, like even if at the Super Bowl, you have to expect that there's a lot of pomp and circumstance that, and not to dismiss the pomp and circumstance. I think the playing of the national anthem, standing for that, our nation watching the Final Four at this point, or the Super Bowl, that's part of the game because it's important. This isn't just one of 200 other games you're playing.
Yeah.
This is the Final Four with a lot of eyeballs on it, so you should be ready for that.
Yeah. I mean, again, the way to get ready though is to keep your pregame routine. Because the important thing for me is, if you are a coach, is it more important for your team to be on TV during the national anthem, or is it more important for them to be mentally and physically ready when the whistle blows? For me, I would defer to getting my team ready to be on the court. That's where I would go with it. It, to me, is more important for them to be on the court and be prepared than it is to be there for the national anthem. If I can work in the national anthem, if it comes out for a time that we're coming out, but if it is a regular routine, no, I wouldn't change it. Not as a coach, personally. Not in this type of a game.
Where do you land on that issue? 303-696-1971, 303-696-1971, or text us on the 710 KNUS app. Dwayne, we're going to go to Dwayne and Divide. Dwayne, you had some comments on Glenn Youngkin vetoing commercialized marijuana in Virginia. What are your thoughts on that, Dwayne?
Well, two things. One, I agree with Billy. You have a routine. When I go to either fly or when I go down the track in my race car, I sit there and make sure I do everything right. One of the stupid things that people look at me is I adjust my oil cap so it has oil going vertical with the engine, or horizontal. So I make sure I have little stupid things that I do. I climb in, put my seatbelt on a particular way. I do not change.
Yeah, me
and
too.
The one time I did variate, there was an engine that sat there and spit 10 pistons all over the ground. Not very happy about that.
One of the times I changed my pregame routine post-college, ended up breaking my shoulder in the first 10 minutes of the game. So, yeah, and I wasn't ready. And I was mentally and physically not ready to step on that field, but I did. And I hurt myself physically, ended up with surgery. Okay. Yeah, it was a mistake.
Yeah, so we understand. All right, as far as Youngkin goes, was there this black wall where marijuana was never used by anybody before it became legal here in Colorado? I don't remember that at all. I don't remember that people sat there and said, marijuana is the devil's lettuce, and we won't touch that. There were people smoking, kids were getting arrested. Mm-hmm. People had long-term marijuana possession, convictions on their records that caused a lot of problems going forward. I don't care. I agree that it should be legalized just on the purely situation of like we waste too much legal resources clogging up things for marijuana possession. Were
But
people smoking beforehand? Yes.
We didn't just legalize, we commercialized. And when you
Well,
commercialize, you now all of a sudden give, and you're a free market guy, Dwayne, so you've now
yes.
given the power to companies to not just allow marijuana to be used, but to encourage people to use it and to use it regularly.
Oh, no. You don't give them, because it's legal, you sit there and say, no, go ahead and use it. The taxation has been punitive on all MJ shops. The situation has been like, oh, well, if we're making 30%, we can make 38. They become very punitive on the taxes, and it's regulated. Now, back east, all liquor stores are government owned, especially in New Hampshire. Live Free or Die. Yeah, they own every liquor store. The state does.
So
and people still drink.
Did Colorado get better after we legalized marijuana, or get worse?
Well, no, we had this small infection called Californication, and that ooze has been coming over our border westward for so many years. It's really ruined everything.
So you don't connect
Marijuana
them
wasn't
at
the
all.
problem.
You don't think marijuana had anything to do with the decline of Colorado?
I believe the fact that marijuana has been around so long and everything else, it made no difference. I thought it brought it above the fray for every old hippie and everything else that is now smoking it, without having to worry about buying some god awful paraquat squaped or anything else. At least they're not buying a better product and all. I don't
When you say better product, what do you mean by better product?
Well, when they were doing the paraquat and other ways to try and dissuade people from, making, building, creating, and they were using, huge fungal chemicals on it, people were smoking it. Pretty soon we had people in their teens and early 20s with, lung cancer issues that nobody could figure out how the cancer even developed. At least now the product is grown in a safe environment. The product is made so it is made for commercial use and safer for the individual. Much like bootleg liquor, it was a situation of what were they putting in it and what are they using now? It's a situation where I don't agree with anybody using anything. Please understand, I don't want, my child has already said he will never drink liquor. He will never smoke a cigarette. And he is so disciplined on this that I'm proud of him for it, but I also know he may fail. But if it was there before it was commercialized, people are going to do it after it's commercialized. And if you make it illegal again, people are still going to smoke it.
Yeah, but I think what you're missing, like even with alcohol, so let's use alcohol as an example, is when the amount of use that takes place even today versus where it was prohibited, because you have the advertisement of it, you have the promotion of it, you have the social acceptance of it, you have all that. I mean, it's just a massive amount more. And you have more liver cirrhosis, you have more domestic violence, you have more drunk driving, you have a massive scale of suffering that increases because we didn't just legalize it, we commercialized it and then promoted its use.
Nobody on marijuana has ever had a domestic violence cause.
Oh, come on, Dwayne.
Nobody wants to hit anybody on marijuana, but they want to have a donut. Whereas if somebody has a couple of beers.
What about psychosis? You've had a massive increase in psychosis, particularly among young people that use it regularly. It's ruining their brains.
I will sit there and say this. I am not one to sit there and encourage the use of marijuana. I have seen all the different studies and sit there and say to people that use it not to and everything else, but to sit there and keep tying up scarce legal resources from our law enforcement, our court system, and everything else, I feel is a net drain in the negative position, far worse than anything that Governor Youngkin, who I support in his view. Statistics are like loose women. Now, sir, you may not know anything about loose women, but Billy and I do. And once you get loose women, you can do pretty much anything you want with them. Same thing with statistics.
All right, Dwayne. Dwayne from Divide, thanks for the call. Dwayne's line is going to be open 303-696-1971.
He's right about me. Not my wife, but know some of them, yes. Yes.
Look, and this will even shock you. I'm not sure that you could ever put the genie back in the bottle in Colorado. Like we're going to get to a place where we recriminalize marijuana. But here's what I would like to see.
Yeah.
I'd like us to educate people regarding marijuana the way we've done with tobacco.
Yeah, that'd be smart.
You go talk to kids these days and it's like, really? Cigarettes? Horrible. And the fact that we went from in 2 generations smoking around the kitchen dinner table every evening to I would never touch that with a 10-foot pole.
Yeah.
Mostly through education, some regulation. I'm not getting rid of that, but mostly through education. I look at pot and I go, I would like to get to that level where culturally it's as rejected as tobacco is, because trying to ban stuff that people want to naturally do is difficult. But
yeah. And I think part of the problem was when we were coming up, the stories and what they said about marijuana turned out largely not to be true. What they were talking about, and they equated it with much harder drugs. And the people that I know that experimented with it and experimented with a lot of drugs, a lot of them, we talk about gateway again, the gateway drugs, 9 times out of 10, everyone points to marijuana. People that I know, 9 times out of 10, it's either tobacco or alcohol. They tried that first before getting to the marijuana, before getting to anything else. However, I do admit that the vast majority of people that went on to harder drugs did find a pathway first through marijuana.
Right.
But the vast majority who tried marijuana did not go on to harder drugs. Again, anecdotally, through my experience, people that I knew, the vast majority of them didn't go. But there was a segment of them that went, wait, they told me that if I did the marijuana, this and this and this had happened, and it's not happening. So are they telling me the truth about the other drugs? And I think that's the problem, is we can be like we were with cigarettes for years and years and years. We weren't honest about cigarettes. Now we're honest with the kids about cigarettes and they make good choices. I think you're right that if we come to it and we're honest about it, I think we can allow them to make that choice and probably keep them from doing it. But if we come in going, if you're going to smoke this joint, you're going to have a schizophrenic episode and you're going to end up in the hospital for 3 weeks. There are going to be kids that are going to try it and go, I'm not schizophrenic. So what have you been lying to me about? So the idea of the real impact of mental health and the real impact of health on your lungs and your body, that's real. And you can talk about the development of the brain, and that's real for kids. And that's operational. But coming in and saying this joint is the same thing as this 8-ball is not going to resonate. And they're going to look at you saying, you're lying to me.
And this is where I think Dwayne gets it wrong. You have to remember the commercialization aspect of this. Okay. So our country is in a massive uproar over fentanyl deaths. Right. And rightly so. 100,000 deaths in America due to fentanyl. Tobacco related deaths, 400,000. 4 times the amount. And it's not because tobacco is worse than fentanyl. It's if the regular use of tobacco, an addictive substance promoted by companies that are incentivized to get you to use it as much as they can, leads to that, right? So, are you going to smoke a cigarette and die like you would if you took 2 fentanyl pills? No, you're not. But you get used to that and you consume that regularly and you push that upon a society and you buy into it culturally. Yeah, you're going to end up with a lot of people that die.
Yeah, as we did. And I think that's part of the fentanyl issue is when we talk about black market, etc. And I understand when Glenn Youngkin was talking about, the black market for the pot industry still does exist. That's true. But I think it hurts his example a little bit when you're talking about things like fentanyl, because you're not seeing fentanyl make it into that commercialized product. You're having fentanyl cut into the illicit drugs because they're illegal, and that's part of the process. And what Dwayne's argument is that even though he is not a fan of the marijuana industry, at least having it commercialized, and I'll use that because I think you're appropriate, or a word for that, commercialized, at least has some regulation as to what is going to be sold and what is going to come across that counter. Is the black market still going to exist? Yes. But that's, I think, Dwayne's point was that what you have better control over. So, but am I in favor of legalizing all the other drugs? No, not at all. No,
even Oregon. Even Oregon's like, no,
it doesn't work.
So that study that we did was published through CCU. And speaking of Colorado Christian University, is your student ready to live out their faith and prepare for their future career. For over 100 years, Colorado Christian University has been educating the next generation of Christian leaders in a distinctly Christ-centered community. CCU is the premier interdenominational Christian university in the Rocky Mountain region. They offer a world-class education, ranking in the top 2% of all colleges nationwide for their rigorous academics. Students can choose from over 100 undergraduate programs ranging from psychology, entrepreneurship, theology, and engineering to their nationally acclaimed nursing and education programs. CCU cultivates real faith that equips students for all areas of life. Their small campus and Christ-centered community set CCU apart. At CCU, students are known by name, not by a number. Professors are mentors, developing students spiritually and professionally. No matter what degree path they choose, your student will graduate from Colorado Christian University ready to impact the world with grace and truth. To learn more and apply, go to ccu.edu/apply. That's ccu.edu/apply. We'll get to your calls and texts. You're listening to The Jeff and Bill Show.
News Talk 710, KNUS.
At this hour in London, I'm Stuart Smith, and here are the top stories we're following. A gag order restricting what Donald Trump can say has been extended to family members of the judge in his criminal hush money trial. It comes after the former president claimed the judge's daughter's political work means the judge had a conflict of interest. Trump is already banned from speaking about trial witnesses and court staff, but is free to criticize the judge and the Manhattan district attorney. Several US states are holding presidential primaries today. Joe Biden and Donald Trump are expected to win across the board with practically zero opposition on the ballot. Yet as Americans head to the polls in Wisconsin, Connecticut, New York and Rhode Island, some are planning to cast their vote to protest against the leading candidates. Benji Haya reports.
President Joe Biden and former President Donald Trump are the favourites in their respective primaries as they both vie for the Oval Office again. Neither faces a strong challenge. They've both already secured more delegates than they need to win their party's nominations. Yet voters could still decide to choose an uncommitted option on their ballot, express dissatisfaction with the two contenders, Republicans wary of Trump amid his multiple criminal trials, or Democrats frustrated with Biden over foreign policy can express their outrage even if the results on Tuesday are a foregone conclusion.
And that's what you need to know at this hour. I'm Stuart Smith in London on Salem News Channel.
All right, lots of news to cover today in the 7 o'clock hour. Tyson Langhofer from Alliance Defending Freedom is going to join us on this case that's working its way up to the U.S. Supreme Court with regards to government funding for religious schools. You're not going to miss that. That could be a big game changer for this nation. And then also in the 8 o'clock hour, I want to get into the mayor of Denver, Mike Johnston. He's had enough. He's had enough. And I think the bet has been settled between Danielle Jurinsky of Aurora and Mike Johnston of Denver as to which city was going to be able to handle illegal immigrants better. The city of Denver and its political director telling now illegal immigrants that they need to move on. The services that they're looking for in Denver will not be provided for them. It's like peak leftism. We all started out with this great idea that we could care for everybody, everything will be okay. And then $120 million in debt later, and a lot of people coming to the city of Denver from other countries, they're now willing to buy you a bus ticket elsewhere. Peak leftism. All right, we'll get to that later in the show. And then in 9 o'clock, you're not going to want to miss this, a guy named Scott Shamblin, who is roasting the left down at the state capitol in some of the funniest clips, arguing that he stands with them as a fertilizing person. If you're wondering what that all means, you're not going to miss that in the 9 o'clock hour. Let's check in on the news with Blake Olson. Good morning, Blake.
Morning, Jeff. Yeah, we'll talk about those three of the four remaining hotel shelters for illegal immigrants closing this week. We will discuss that. The three men who threw rocks and killed the young lady last year pleaded not guilty in court. That trial takes place in June. And, Billy got me thinking yesterday, how many days are designated for LGBTQ plus and all that stuff? That's coming up as well.
28, I think, right? Something like that. Is there more? That's what Fox said. Fox said 3 months and 28 days out of the year.
Okay. That, I think there's going to be more. I may surprise you. Maybe. We'll see. That should be fun. We'll talk to you at the top of the hour.
That's great. That's great. All right. Governor of Virginia vetoing pot.
Today, I have vetoed the bill to create a commercial retail market for cannabis. Cannabis is bad for Virginia. And in all the other states that have had an extensive retail market, what you see is, first, it's terrible for children and adolescents' health and safety. Massive increases in child poisonings, massive increases in adolescent usage. And of course, when you combine that with the fact that the potency of cannabis today is dangerous, it drives mental health challenges and mental health sickness to the point of psychosis. There's also been a systematic increase in these states in violent crime. Of course, the black market doesn't go away. I mean, in California, the legal retail market only accounts for 10% of the entire cannabis market. And therefore, gang activity escalates and violent crime increases. And that's on top of the fact that you see traffic accidents and fatalities increase over 70% in marijuana-related accidents. And then finally, you couple this with the reality that the overall costs through the system in order to address the social requirements of this retail market far outweigh the tax receipts. And in fact, a study in Colorado found that Colorado spends $4.50 for every $1 that it brings in tax receipts. And so the entire argument that this could possibly be good falls down on every front. Cannabis is bad for Virginia. The law enforcement community does not want it. Healthcare workers do not want it. And let me tell you, parents do not want it in their children's lives.
And I think you alluded to this down in Richmond. Some Democrats say this would be good for the economy, legalizing the sale of marijuana. But I think you told them, hey, you have a better deal on the table. And that was the monumental deal.
Let's go work on creating good jobs and growing opportunity, as opposed to pretending that collecting taxes from a pot shop on every corner is good business. It's bad for Virginia. And in fact, the winning states are not doing this. That's
the line that I found most compelling. The winning states are not doing this. California legalized pot, Colorado legalized pot, Washington legalized pot, Oregon legalized pot. Does he have a point there that the winning states aren't doing this?
And for me, it's interesting you focused on that being the one that was the most powerful. That for me was the most confusing line of everything he said there. How does he define winning? I never heard him that entire time talk about what is winning. And then at the end, he comes in and says, these states that have legalized pot aren't the ones that are winning.
Yeah.
He never tells me what winning is.
You could go through everything he listed there. Marijuana related traffic fatalities, the black market, the amount of money they're having to spend dealing with it.
Yeah, although I would
kids
submit
developing psychosis.
I would submit the black market is probably a larger share and stronger inside of states where it's not legal than where it's legal. I'm just guessing. I don't have anything in front of me, but I would say that logic would probably dictate the black market is stronger and more profitable where it's prohibited than where it is legal. So again, I'm not saying that's winning. What I'm curious about is how is he defining winning? I'm not coming to the table saying this is how I judge these states as winning. I want to know what his filter is, because until then, I don't feel I personally can judge that statement. I don't know what he means by winning, and I don't see anything in that statement that he's making.
Do you think Oregon's winning compared to other states?
Again, winning in what way? How do we define winning?
And just being a good state?
I don't know. It depends on how we're defining it. Are we, again, because one of the things that we talk about in the show, sometimes people talk about that Texas is winning because no income tax and all the freedoms.
And a lot of businesses wanting to move there and
Florida
things like that.
Winning because a lot of people want to win there. Pot's legal in Florida. But again, so is it winning?
Mm-hmm.
That's what I'm curious about. What's winning? I want to know how people are defining winning. Then I believe we can discuss it. Same thing with Oregon. You asked me, is Oregon winning? Winning what? What's it winning? Are we talking about tax revenue? Are we talking about education? Are we talking about job growth? Are we talking about GDP growth? Are we talking about crime? What's my filter? I can't tell you whether or not Oregon's winning anything until I understand the broader discussion of how we're judging.
I'll tell you one of the areas you can judge whether or not they're winning. I found this as a very unique partner when we were fighting pot was the NCAA. Wrong line. NAACP.
Oh, okay.
The NAACP came out.
Really?
Colleges.
Weird. I was really confused. But okay, cool.
The NAACP came out against pot because of what they saw happening in their communities with liquor stores primarily.
Yeah.
So the concentration of liquor stores in urban downtown communities is way higher than it is in like Highlands Ranch or those types of things, right?
Yep.
And what the NAACP has seen is these companies for profit have targeted inner city communities with high addiction substances and has been a contributing factor in decimating those communities. And so the NAACP, when they saw pot coming in and saw the Denver at one point had more pot shops than Starbucks.
Yeah.
We're like, quit targeting our communities with this crap.
Yeah. And part of that, the reason we had so many was exactly what you talk about, the commercialization.
Yeah.
Is that because it is a new product, everybody and the grandmother tried to open a pot shop and tried to invest in it. Mm-hmm. And the market is somewhat found more or less in equilibrium. I would go back to, do you remember a couple of years ago, right around the COVID time, remember fidget spinners? Where the hell are they now? But you remember everybody, for a short window in time, everybody made fidget spinners.
Yep.
Everyone had a fidget spinner. You could go to Sharp Image fidget spinner. You could go wherever it is. KFC, Kentucky Fried Chicken fidget spinner. So everyone had one. Everyone was producing them. You would walk into a gas station. They were sitting there on the counter. Now they don't exist anymore. Same thing as far as saturation of market. And so when we had all those pot shops, it was saturation of market. And I do think part of it, you're right, about the idea of commercialization when they go into those inner cities, one, based on addictive behavior, two, based on concentration of populations. And some of the black market issues are exacerbated, in my opinion, based on the legalization. And you're right about that. And the reason being, I don't say that it's less when it's legalized than when it's not, but the problem being the taxes. When taxes rise to a level that the product becomes difficult to purchase, the black market thrives. So in many ways, you're correct that the taxes on marijuana and the commercialization lead to an increase and a burgeoning black market simply because of their goal, the taxes. That price drives the black market to undercut what's happening. That's why you see that in New York and cigarettes. I think somewhere like 40% of the cigarettes sold in New York are illegal, because exactly the taxes. So same thing. So that's the same thing. So I believe you're right about black market, although I have a little bit of a difference of opinion as to whether or not the black market is more thriving or less in a state that has prohibition. That again,
and we could get into that at another time. Talking to law enforcement, they're like, we just can't enforce it. I mean, when Colorado originally started, it was like 99 plants, and then you get, if you had 4 people living in your house, they could all have 99 plants. Ridiculous. And you're like, what's it?
And 99 as an individual. I mean, that's the part too. I'm like, how much are you smoking? I mean, who's Snoop Dogg in this thing? I mean, seriously, I knew some real potheads in college, and even that. Wow.
Here's a question. So, and you don't have to answer if you don't, if you feel like it's too private. Did you smoke pot?
I believe that there is a time and place for everything, and it's called college.
Yeah. So I did, and I watched my grades plummet, and that's part of my motivation is just how bad it affected me.
See, I didn't see grades
destroyed my short-term memory.
I didn't see grades plummet. What I saw, and this was my personal experience, is the impact on people's behavior and choices. Is I don't have a single guy or girl that I went to college with that ever came to me and said, I can't believe that I got so high last night that I slept with this person. I can't believe I got so high last night that I ended up at a place I didn't know. I can't believe I got so high last night that I let this crazy person borrow my car and they wrecked it. I have a laundry list of people that got drunk and did that.
Yeah.
I mean, there was one person, and again, I will not say his name because he still does live here in Denver, that when he was drinking alcohol became remarkably suggestive, ridiculously so, to the point where as a peer group, we would decide before the party what he was going to do that night. And then throughout the night, we would suggest it. And sure enough, right around 12:30, and just enough of the alcohol gets on board, he's doing exactly what we had all suggested. Did we set it up? Yes. Is this the reason he can't run for president? Absolutely. Absolutely. But I never had that experience. I lived, one of the houses I lived in, one of my roommates, huge pothead, one of my roommates, functional alcoholic. If either one of them told me their friends were coming over, I was worried about the drinkers. Those were the people.
I just never saw the separation.
Yeah,
on that, though.
I did.
People combine them.
Oh, yeah. I saw
I think it's a larger drug culture. But
absolutely. But I didn't see the people that came over. If they were going to have a party where a bunch of people were drinking alcohol, I would lock things up and hide things in my room and lock my door. If the pot guys were coming over, I knew that they were going to spill the bong, and so the front carpet was going to smell like crap the next morning, and all the chips are going to be gone. That's about it. There wasn't it was a totally different thing. I never saw the marijuana people trying to pee in our kitchen sink. That happened a lot with the drinkers. So it's just a different behavior. I just saw different behaviors. I'm not saying one is better than the other. I'm just saying I saw each one of them cultivate different behaviors and different choices.
Text message from Nebraska as to whether or not Colorado is winning. Colorado is not winning, and I could give you a list of 100 things. So maybe give us a call, 5311. Governor of Virginia saying that states that legalized pot are not winning, and that's why he won't do it there. We'll get to your calls and text. You're listening to the Jeff and Bill Show.
News Talk 710, KNUS.
All right, let's do You Choose the News, Bill.
Yes, ladies and gentlemen, boys and girls, and everyone at the Broken Radio, it is that time of the morning again when we get to play everybody's favorite fake radio news game show. It's time for You Choose the News, where I've scoured the interwebs for mere moments this morning to find really stupid headlines for these dumb stories about ridiculous things that us humans do. Why? Because it's a little silly and they don't know we're playing this game. So, again, Jeff Hunt and Blake Olson from our newsroom are going to be choosing our stories. Gentlemen, here are your headlines today. Sometimes a little GTA is okay. Headline number 2, the Romans did it better. Headline number 3, unique approach to conservation. And headline number 4, all aboard the love train.
Love train.
I hope you're picking that one. All righty, Mr. Hunt, all aboard the love train. Korea is having some problems in some of their industries. They're facing many of the same problems that we are here in the U.S., housing problems. And that's leading to some love and baby problems. Here's the deal. They're worried about lack of babies being produced. Now, when they're talking to the young kids, the kids are saying, well, it's because I can't afford a home. I can't afford to start a family. Can't do it. So Korea is going to invest over $100 billion in love trains. No, this is not a place where you make those jokes about going into the tunnel and dark and a whole bunch of other stuff. It is about high-speed trains that are going to be set coming into their population centers. The idea being you could live like 100 miles away, live somewhere more affordable, and then take a high-speed train into the city. An example here locally would be live in Pueblo, take a high-speed train to Denver, work in Denver, and that train gets you here in somewhere around an hour to 90 minutes minimum. And that would be the idea.
I saw a guy on a motorcycle do that once.
I did too. I think he was arrested. Yeah. So that's the idea.
He was just in love.
Yep.
Come
they're doing
on.
love trains. Alrighty, sir. Your second choice this morning. Sometimes a little GTA is okay. Romans did it better, or unique approach to conservation.
Let's go to GTA.
Yeah. Sometimes a little GTA is okay. We're going to the Oroville Police Department in Northern California. Recently, they had a unique chase involving a vehicle. About 9:20 in the morning, they see a vehicle, a Volkswagen, stopped in the middle of an intersection. As they approach, the car speeds away, almost hitting a couple of cars, drives erratically. It's a short car chase. They jump into the patrol vehicles. They chase down the car. Eventually, it parks inside of a dirt field. When they approach the car, they're surprised to find a 9-year-old behind the wheel. He breaks down into tears and says, I'm sorry, I took the keys because I want to go to school. He was trying to drive himself to school, and he didn't really know how. So again, they were like, okay, kid, here. And so they brought him back home and then took him to school and everything else. I just love the fact that a little GTA, sometimes it's okay if you're getting to school. I think we're okay there. Alrighty, Blake, your final choice this morning, Romans did it better or unique approach to conservation?
Conservation stories are usually ridiculous.
Yes,
so
this is a very unique approach to conservation. We're going to South Africa. They have a novel idea of keeping some of their endangered animals alive. They're asking to eat some of them because they're delicious. What they're doing is their antelope and zebra populations are getting out of control. So South Africa has floated the idea of allowing landowners to start private hunting reserves, allowing people to come on and shoot zebras and or antelope in order to cull the herd. Right now, year over year, the government is having to come in and kill hundreds, if not thousands, of those animals because they're in danger of overloading an ecosystem. So they're hoping they can turn it, 1, into something profitable, and 2, into something where they can turn around and maybe even market the meat. So you and I, yes, Blake, next year, we are going to try the very first mixed zebra, if we can, hopefully.
I like chicken.
Got a story on that. My brother was hunting in South Africa, went to shoot an impala, missed it, bullet went into a bush.
Yeah.
No. Zebra fell over.
Oh, jeez. Well done. Well, that's it. That's the end of You Choose the News. We'll check in with Blake in a moment.
Well, you listen to the Jeff and Bill Show.
News Talk 710 KNUS.
Good morning, Denver. You tuned into the Jeff and Bill Show on 710 KNUS. It's 7 a.m. and we are off and running. I'm your co-host, Jeff Hunt, along with Bill Thorpe, bringing you the freshest insights, hottest takes from the right, left, center, and crazy. It's going to be a nicer day today in Denver, high of 58 degrees. We're gearing up for a whole nother hour of engaging discussions, critical analysis, most importantly, your calls and texts, because this is where Denver's voice is heard loud and clear. So grab your coffee, Denver, and let's dive into the issues that matter most to you right here, right now. Joining us in just a minute is Tyson Langhofer, a senior counsel with Alliance Defending Freedom. There's a big court case being argued in Oklahoma today. And you may be going, Oklahoma? What does that have to do with us here in Denver? This could make its way all the way up to the U.S. Supreme Court. Oklahoma Charter School Board defends its refusal to disqualify a religious applicant. Basically, the argument coming down, can we use state funds to support religious-based schools, or can they be denied solely based upon their religion? We'll get into this and more with Tyson Langhofer in just a second. Let's check in on the news with Blake Olson. Good morning, Blake.
Morning, Jeff. 32 and sunny in Denver, expecting highs in the upper 50s. Today, the 7-10 5-day forecast is coming up. Our top story, tension increases in the Middle East. Israel strikes the Iranian embassy on Monday, killing 3 top commanders in Damascus.
The targeteers did everything they could, I'm sure, to avoid collateral damage. But at the end of the day, the strike occurred, I'm sure, because Israel believed that there was yet another malevolent actor.
That's Admiral James Stavridis on with Hugh Hewitt this morning. Israel is not going to pump the brakes until they win this war. 3 people accused of throwing rocks through the windshields of cars in Jefferson County last year, one which killed a 20-year-old, Alexa Bartel, pleaded not guilty in court on Monday. Joseph Koenig, Nicholas Carroll Chick, and Zachary Quack are charged with first-degree murder. Quack and Carroll Chick will go on trial in June. The city of Denver will close 3 of the remaining 4 hotel shelters for illegal immigrants this week. Denver expects to spend $120 million to house illegal immigrants this year, which, remember, the mayor said they're saving $60 million. Spokesman John Ewing.
If you could just put everybody in one facility and you have the means to do so, yeah, it is cheaper. It's also just easier on everyone. It's easier even on the nonprofits, so they can get in there and work with people and they're not spread all over the place.
August Romero is being held in Adams County on a first-degree murder charge. He's the suspect who ran over and killed Robbie Valenzuela with his truck on Saturday in Westminster. Tricia Calvarisi won nearly 65% of the vote last night and will be the Democratic nominee to run in the special election to fill Ken Buck's seat in CD4. It's 30 in Englewood, 29 in Lakewood, 32 in Denver. Nuggets play host to the Spurs tonight. Avalanche lose to the Blue Jackets. Rockies shut out by the Cubs 5-0. Opening day for them is Friday at 2:10 at Coors Field. The Astros run El Blanco with the first no-hitter of the season. Houston beat Toronto 2-0. Caitlin Clark in Iowa over LSU. They move on in the tourney. And I have to reset from Monday. Yesterday on April Fool's Day, we were talking about the trans visibility thing, which was fact, and that happened on Easter. Now, there are 60 plus days for LGBTQ plus people. Stephen Crowder.
Let me give you some examples. May 17th is International Day Against Transphobia. November is Trans Awareness Month. The entire month, which also includes November 3rd, Transparent Day, November 8th, Intersex Day of Solidarity, November 13th through 19th, Trans Awareness Week, November 20th, Trans Day of Remembrance, which became Trans Day of Vengeance. And all of this is in addition, by the way, to June, which is the Pride Month. In March, you have Bisexual Awareness Month. October is LGBT History Month. Over 60 days on our calendar for LGBTQ plus whatever, including gay uncles.
Gay Uncle Day is a real day.
People who died for their country get a total of 2
days. And Gay Uncle Day is August 11th. I kid you not.
Is that real? That's a real day?
Yes.
That's amazing.
I didn't believe it.
Yeah.
But
And
it's a
yesterday was
real
also
day.
National Cran Day, National Prom Day, National Clams on the Half Shell Day, National Bunsen Burner Day, and National Tater Day.
I
I'd
know.
like
So,
60
again,
days of
But
National
the
Tater Days.
Yeah.
proclamation,
I know.
yeah, I like
Again,
that too. The
we have a lot of
proclamation
national days.
from the federal government. Yeah, we do.
We
But
have
the
a
federal
whole lot of
government
them.
is attacking Christianity. That's the bottom line. They don't like Judeo-Christian values in this country, and that's what's happening.
Yeah,
So,
with our Catholic presidents all the time. Yep.
I've got some audio
that's
on that,
wrong.
by the way. Go
Yeah,
ahead.
What's
today
wrong
is
with
National
Catholic
DIY
presidents?
Day. It's also the Sam Day of Action. It's National Ferret Day today. National Peanut Butter and Jelly Day. National Reconciliation Day. All today.
Let's all reconcile.
I love it.
Can't we
Just
all?
how about no days? All right, let's just have nothing.
Then what are
Okay,
what are our
just-
legislators going to do? Because that's how this happens.
Oh, no.
All right, guys. We'll talk to you at the bottom of the hour. Jeff and Bill continue. Blake Olson News Talk 710
The
KNUS.
710 5-day forecast calls for some very pleasant spring weather here in Denver and along the Front Range for the next few days. Warming to the upper 50s and sunny today. Breezy north winds, clear tonight, low to mid 30s. Mostly sunny Wednesday, good looking day. Mid to upper 60s, upper 30s Wednesday night. Highs will be low 70s Thursday, low 70s Friday, and we're looking at temperatures starting Saturday mild, but Saturday night and Sunday sharply colder with showers. Meteorologist Don Day, 710 KNUS. The 710 5-day forecast calls for some very pleasant spring weather here in Denver and along the Front Range for the next few days.
All right, one of my very favorite organizations, Alliance Defending Freedom, and one of my very favorite people at one of my very favorite organizations, Senior Counsel Tyson Langhofer. He also manages the Center for Academic Freedom with Alliance Defending Freedom, is joining us on the line. Tyson, thanks so much for being on the Jeff and Bill Show.
Hey, Jeff, thanks so much for having me.
So let's talk about this Oklahoma case and why this could have bigger ramifications for the rest of the nation.
Absolutely. So, yeah, we're going to be in front of the Oklahoma Supreme Court this morning. And the court is hearing a case where we represent the Oklahoma statewide virtual charter school board. And the case involves essentially the charter school board's approval of an application by a Catholic school known as St. Isidore. They're wanting to start up a virtual charter school, and they would do it through public funding, which is made available by the state of Oklahoma. The board approved the application of St. Isidore, even though the actual law prohibits any funding to schools that are run by sectarian organizations. And so the question before the Supreme Court is whether Oklahoma Charter School Board can provide state funding to a charter school run by a religious organization, or is that actually prohibited by the Establishment Clause?
Now, Tyson, we have a strong separation of church and state in this country, right? Isn't this a violation of the Constitution?
It absolutely is not. And in fact, the Supreme Court has made this very clear. Over the last several years, they've decided a number of cases. So we're talking about the U.S. Supreme Court. And so because that's really the issue here, is, you've got this state law, and the state law clearly does prohibit any state funds going to an organization that is run by a, quote, sectarian organization. And so the question is, can they do that, or is that prohibited by the First Amendment? And the U.S. Supreme Court has made very clear that government cannot treat religious individuals or institutions worse than what it treats secular institutions. So here, secular institutions, any secular organization a private secular organization can apply for a charter to start up a public school, and that public school would then be funded by public funds. But it says religious institutions or sectarian institutions cannot do that. So it is clearly treating religious institutions, religious organizations differently and worse than secular organizations. And the Supreme Court has made that clear that's not allowed.
But then aren't we going to be in a place where we're using public funds to fund religious schools?
That would be done. Yes. I mean, public funds would be used to do that. But here's what's really important for people to understand. The only way that funds go to any, religious school is through parental choice. That's what we're talking about here. Parental choice. Parents have to choose this. There has to be demand for a parent to want their child to go to this like school. And so all they're doing is giving parents more choice. Do you want to go use these funds to go to a secular charter school? Then do that. Do you want them to go to a Catholic charter school? Then you can do that. And we believe that parents and children are better off when Oklahoma has more choices, not fewer. And I think as everybody can see, over the last several years, as we've gotten more information and more, insight to what's going on in public schools, I think more people are saying, hey, I want another choice. I don't want my kids to have to go to this public school, which is indoctrinating them with very, wrong ideas that are contrary to my faith. I want more opportunities.
Talking with Tyson Langhofer, he's a senior counsel and director of the Center for Academic Freedom with Alliance Defending Freedom. Tyson, one of the text messages we have coming in here is that is this going to open up these religious schools to government control? Kind of the Hillsdale argument that once you start accepting those dollars, they're going to have a lot more control over your school.
Well, as it stands now, the statute gives a lot of control to the institution themselves. It allows them to determine the curriculum. It allows them to determine who they hire and their employment practices, things like that. So, as it stands now, we don't think that is the case. But here's the thing: if an organization does not want to have to abide by the rules imposed by the state, then they don't have to apply for those funds. Nobody's forcing them to apply for the funds. But if they choose to become a charter school, then they will have to comply with those rules. But the rules have to be neutral. They can't target a religious organization. And in fact, what people need to understand is charter schools are set up to be an alternative to the normal public schools run by the state. And they're an alternative to create more choice. That's literally in the Charter School Act itself, is to provide a diversity of opportunities. So it would really be contrary to the purpose of the charter schools if the state came in and started trying to dictate exactly how those schools should be run, because they could do that through the public schools that they are already operating as public schools.
If I remember the history correctly, a lot of these kind of blanket bans on funding going to religious schools were kind of rooted in an anti-Catholicism that popped up in the early 1900s. Is that true? Is a lot of this kind of rooted in that anti-Catholicism?
That is true for the previous cases that have gone before the Supreme Court. So there's a case called Espinoza out of Montana several years ago, in which Montana had a voucher program where a parent could apply for a voucher, and then that tuition voucher could then be used to go to any school. And they said, you can't use it to go to this Christian school. And they said that because the Montana Constitution had a provision which banned any sectarian aid, and that provision in the Constitution was what's known as a Blaine Amendment, which was, had its history in a congressman, a senator known as Senator Blaine, who was looking to essentially ban any funding for Catholic entities. And there was a number of states that adopted those amendments, and those have now been struck down a couple different times by the U.S. Supreme Court.
So if this moves all the way up to the U.S. Supreme Court, by the way, the case is Drummond v. Oklahoma Statewide Virtual Charter School Board. It's going to be argued today in Oklahoma. And you might be asking, why is Denver talking about a court case out in Oklahoma? Because this could go all the way to the U.S. Supreme Court. What does this mean for the nation if it makes it all the way up there? Obviously, this could help the people of Oklahoma have greater school choice. And by the way, I've always wondered, our family has gone just through about every level of school, right? We've done private Christian, we've done public, we've done charter school. Now our kids are looking at private Christian again for high school. So I'm going to pay my property taxes, and then I'm going to pay additional money for them to go to the school of our choice. But what is the ramifications nationally if this makes it all the way up to the U.S. Supreme Court?
Well, there's been a number of cases over the last several years that the Supreme Court has done to interpret what does the Establishment Clause mean? Does it actually bar any funds going to religious schools? And the last two times they've answered that, they've said no, it does not bar that. But this one is a little bit different in that in the Espinoza case, that was a voucher where a parent got money and then used it to go to a Christian school. In the Carson v. Macon case out of Maine, the court was faced with the question of where a program that Maine had that said that Maine could pay money to a school if the district that the parent was in didn't have a public secondary school, but the payment was going directly to the Christian school. And Maine said, we're going to allow it to go to a Christian school, but you can use it to go to a private secular school. And the Supreme Court said, no, the Establishment Clause not only doesn't prohibit that, it actually mandates that you allow that money to go there. This is a little bit different in that this would be the first case before the Supreme Court where the question is, can the state charter a religious charter school? They have not addressed that question. So does the Establishment Clause prohibit the establishment of a public religious charter school? And we believe that the previous precedent says no. And so what that means for the nation is if this went up to the Supreme Court and if they approved this, then it would allow other states to adopt programs which would allow for more choice for parents. It would allow the establishment of public religious charter schools, and it would give parents more choice. They could choose to go to the secular or they could choose to go to the religious.
That's super relevant for Colorado because right now there's bills being introduced down at the state capitol to weaken charter schools. And Colorado used to be a really great kind of starter and founder of the charter school movement. I mean, our governor, Jared Polis, who we disagree with on a number of issues, has, I think, nearly a dozen charter schools that he's helped start in the Boulder area. So at one point, Democrats in the state of Colorado kind of embraced charter schools. But now they seem to be turning against them, in part because families are leaving government-run schools in droves, partially because they don't like the values that are being promoted, but they also don't like the standards. So, for instance, in the city of Denver Public Schools, only 20% of middle school students are performing at their grade level when it comes to math. 20%. That means 80% of the students in Denver public school middle schools are not performing at their level with math. And what we've seen on the charter school movement, and we were kind of founding families of a charter school here in Colorado as well, is people are really hungry for good values, high standards, and engaged teachers. And they want parents want to be involved in the process. When you have these government-run schools that are dominated by unions, dominated by leftist values, are failing to teach the basics for students, you get a lot of parents that, even if they're liberal in their political worldview, are going, I want more options. I want more options. And it'll be interesting to see if this plays out in Colorado. Tyson Langhofer, you're the director of the Center for Academic Freedom with Alliance Defending Freedom. Give us just a baseline of where academic freedom is today in America.
Well, I mean, I think there's really two ways to view that. The bad news is that there are a lot of attacks on freedom of speech and academic freedom throughout the country, both at the higher education and in college level and K through 12. I mean, we are continually getting calls from, teachers across the country saying that they're being forced to participate in the social transition of children and to hide that information from parents. And that's a very bad development and a scary development, not only for parents, but for teachers and their rights. You know, and we've got, you know, regular calls from students, college across the country, whose rights are being violated as well. So that's the bad news. The good news is that the state of our law is still really good. I mean, at the Center for Academic Freedom, we've had more than 435 victories over the last 17 years for you know, students and teachers across the country, and we win about 91% of our cases. And so the law, our First Amendment, is still really strong, and we can win and do regularly win when we're willing to challenge it. And so what I would encourage your listeners is to recognize that we do have rights. Those rights are still really strong, and we can win, but we just have to have the courage to stand.
Tyson, talking with Tyson Langhofer, he's a senior counsel with Alliance Defending Freedom. We got a question here on the text message line. Would this choice apply to charter madrasas, Torah schools, or could the Church of Satan even start a school?
Well, obviously, you know, there are the state. What we're the principle that is we are advocating for, and that we think is consistent with U.S. Supreme Court precedent, is that the state cannot treat religion differently than secular options. And so obviously there are, you know, there's a variety of religious organizations that might want to apply, and if it's solely based upon this organization's faith, and that's why it's denied, then that would not be allowed. But again, what we have to remember is there has to be demand. Okay, so this is parent driven. No money will go to any school unless parents request this. And so that's, you know, in our case, there is a demand for Catholic education. The Diocese of Tulsa and Oklahoma City have seen a demand, and they've responded to that demand by creating this charter school. And so that's what we're advocating for, is just simply that religious institutions be treated the same as secular, and that parents be given the option to choose that option if that's what they want to do.
Now, Tyson, I have a question. It's twofold. One, if the faith-based schools get public funding, are they going to be held to the same standards the public institutions are? We'll start there.
Well, there are. So in order to approve a charter, you do meet some minimum standards, but they're not dictating exactly what curriculum to do or anything like that. But they're simply saying, hey, there are some general standards, and here you have to approve that. And so, like in this case, the initial application for St. Isidore was not approved because there were various deficiencies where they said, hey, you need to improve this, or you need to do this, that kind of thing. And so then they did that and came back, and then it was approved after that. So there are some standards, but it's not it is not a dictating what curriculum is being taught. It's more, we want to make sure that the kids that are choosing this are actually getting a quality education.
I'm kind of focusing more on some of the nuts and bolts as far as public education. Things like a public school has to provide lunch, has to provide busing, has to provide a guidance counselor, has to provide a nurse. Those aren't always the same standards for charter schools. And I have a question based on capitalism and competition. If we're going to be giving money and funding to an institution, religious or otherwise, that isn't playing on the same field as a public institution, they're not held to the same standards based on nuts and bolts. I'm not talking curricula, but talking about the other services those public institutions are mandated to provide.
So, in my understanding is they do not have to, so that there are certain rules they have to abide by, but they are not required to abide by the all of the other state laws governing public schools. So I think that what you're saying would be accurate, that they don't have to comply with the busing and lunch and rules, things like that.
Would you agree that may be why some of the public institutions feel that this is disingenuous, because they have to play by a certain set of rules, and the public funding then goes to a certain set of educational institutions, religious or otherwise, that aren't held to the same standards? Again, not curricula, functional, based on just executing the workday.
Sure. I obviously that's a decision as a that's a policy-based decision as a state. You know, what types of decisions, how do you want to treat public and charter schools, and is it fair to impose certain requirements on a public school that's not on a charter school? That's really more of a policy-based decision, not necessarily a legal or constitutional decision, which is really the subject of this case. I think that the fact is here that public schools, the true public schools that are run by the state, they have different funding, and they have a lot more funds that are actually available to them than the charter schools, where the charter schools, they have a set amount of funds that are going to them only if a parent chooses to go there. And so there's a lot more resources available to public schools that are not available to charter schools. But again, I think that's really more of a policy decision. And I think, as Jeff recognized, you know, that what we're seeing across the country is that parents are desiring more choice, because public schools, they have had a monopoly. They've had the opportunity to provide the education that's needed, and they're not meeting those needs. They're not meeting the demands. The standards aren't being complied with. And so people are demanding more opportunities. And I think that more choice for parents is better.
Yeah, I would agree with you, and I also agree with you that it is a policy thing, not something that can be adjudicated based on the court case that's sitting in front of us. And I want to ask you a question. You don't have to answer this if you don't want to, because again, it's a little bit outside the purview of what we're talking about. But I'm talking about the demand for that alternative education and the religious education and alternative schools and charters. The major hurdle that I see economically to vouchers is that it ends up being a subsidization of private schools. And what I mean by that is there is no price control on a private school. If they get a voucher just simply based on economics 101 on supply and demand, those costs rise. The individuals that can't pay right now to afford that private school eventually will be priced out of the market yet again, because that voucher will not cover the tuition simply based on the lack of price controls and the laws of supply and demand. Do you agree or disagree?
Well, I don't know enough, to give a very specific answer to that. I do agree with you that in general, when the state provides funds for a service or a product, that kind of thing, that typically it does appear to rise. I mean, I think, the proliferation of funds, loans available for higher education, I think has contributed to the rise in the cost, because schools feel like they have this unlimited source to provide funds for it. So I agree that that has created that for higher education. I haven't seen whether that would be accurate or true in states that have had these voucher programs. I know that there's a number of states that have had them around for a long time. I haven't seen that has been a problem. I've got a number of friends and family and acquaintances that have used those, and they haven't, anecdotally, I've never heard that. But from an economics perspective, I think that you're right, that does contribute to that. But again, I think states can address that through the way that they set up their various programs.
Oh, excellent. Thanks for the answer. Appreciate that.
Talking with Tyson Longhofer, who serves as senior counsel and director of the Center for Academic Freedom with Alliance Defending Freedom. Major court case being argued today in Oklahoma, Drummond v. Oklahoma statewide virtual charter school board. It's a case that's working its way up to the U.S. Supreme Court and could result in state funding of religious-based charter schools. So one that you're going to want to continue to watch, could have a big impact on the state of Colorado as well. Tyson, really appreciate you being on the show. Thanks so much for being on the being a friend of the Jeff and Bill Show.
Absolutely. Thanks so much for having me.
This will be a big one for the state, and we'll continue to watch that. I think there's a lot of parents out there that would like more options, especially if it includes religious options to send their kids to school. Imagine effortlessly gliding open your cabinets and drawers to reveal neatly arranged shelves that showcase your belongings. With roll-em-out shelves, you'll easily access your pots, pans, and other essentials, eliminating chaos and increasing speed and functionality in your home. Roll-em-out shelves understands that every home storage needs are unique, whether you're dealing with tight corners or expansive cabinets. Your shelves will be custom built to maximize every inch of available space. Joyce and Brent Tolliver, the mom and son dynamic duo, leave satisfied customers wherever they go, and they're all 5-star reviews confirm this. Here's what some overjoyed customers have said. I put this off for so long thinking it was going to be so much more expensive. It wasn't. Life-changing for us. This is a top-notch company, excellent product, excellent service, and installation. We had shelves installed in the laundry room and kitchen. Makes a world of difference in accessing items. I highly recommend them. Begin the affordable transformation in your home for less than $1,000 when Roll 'em Out Shelves efficiently organizes your space with sturdy Baltic birch shelves built right here in Colorado and guaranteed for life. Call for your free in-home estimate today, 303-475-9601 or rollemoutshelves.com. Be sure to tell them Jeff sent you, 303-475-9601, rollemoutshelves.com. Would love to hear from listeners. Would you appreciate the state providing additional funding and chartering charter schools, religious-based charter schools? Would that be good for the state of Colorado? Are we getting people out of a failing government-run school program, or are we starting to fund religion, and that doesn't make you comfortable as a separation of church and state person? So give us a call, 303-696-1971, 303-696-1971. From Tony in Denver, the research on charter schools is showing little improvement in student achievement. I don't know if that's true, because I think the top performing schools in Colorado are almost nearly all charter schools. What does increase, however, is racial segregation. I don't know if that's true.
I don't know about that one either. I'm not sure. But I could see the reason somewhat behind that. The thing for me is the idea of charter schools and vouchers. Does that mean we're now going to have a thriving educational system? Is that the solution? And if it is not the solution, then why would we do it? If the issue is that the schools are failing, is this the thing that is going to change them? And then we're going to have wonderful, functional educational system. I'm curious about that.
I think what we've seen is choice does make a big difference because it drives competition, right? Our kids were in government-run schools in Douglas County. And when I would go volunteer in those schools, it was a lot of iPads. It was like, here's your iPad, go sit in a corner.
Yeah.
What we were looking for was a return to a classical education. So Latin, no computers in the schools, a lot of reading, heavy academics. And when our kids did that change from a government-run school to a charter school, and the reason I use government-run schools because a charter school is technically still a public school. It was a big leap. That first year was really hard on them.
Sure. Yeah.
And now the high level of academics they've adjusted to, and they're reading Shakespeare, they're diving into all this stuff, and I appreciate that. But we saw a big difference. We saw a really big difference. So I think choice drives that type of competition, which is important. To this point from Tony in Denver, charter schools have been one of the most successful schools in urban communities like Washington, D.C. and New York for parents that want to send their kids to alternative schools than the local neighborhood school. So I don't know if the idea that it's somehow driven racial segregation. I think it's been one of the most popular choices among parents across racial divides.
Yeah, and the issue that I have with it is that everybody trumpets the success of both private schools and charter schools.
Yeah,
but they are allowed to play by different rules. They don't have to play by the same rules the public schools do. And then they sit there and say, well, these schools are obviously succeeding. Okay, then maybe we should take some of those rules that the charter schools and the private schools are allowed to play by and bring them over to the public schools. Maybe we should. Or maybe we should see how the charter schools and the private schools function being held to the same standard. And the number one thing I would put on the table is busing. Busing is a tremendous expense for a public school, but the charter schools and the private schools don't have to deal with it. And that's different. That's a whole line of expenditure that those schools don't have to even consider. And so is it surprising that they're able to spend more money functionally on the student in the classroom? No, not in the least.
I think
because they don't have the same ledger.
Yeah. I thought pot was supposed to solve all that. But another question. I think what you do see happen with charter schools and private schools is the parents that are highly engaged in their kids' education, like super engaged.
Yeah.
Not quite homeschool level engaged, but I'm going to every parent teacher conference.
Yeah.
I'm reading through the curriculum. Those types of people have emptied their kids out of those government run schools.
In some cases, yes. In some cases, no. And only because there are programs, George Washington High School and DPS being one, Smoky Hill High School in Cherry Creek Schools being another, that do have the IB program, the International Baccalaureate.
Right.
So there are segments of that public school population that are getting an education that is on par with many of the private educations here.
Yeah.
Because those kids that are IB kids, I'll put them in the Pepsi Challenge with the Regis and Mullen and Kent Denver and Colorado Academy kids any day of the week. I'm not saying they're going to win. I'm going to say they'll hold their own. So it is possible. But again, I still come back to, with public schools, you are not allowed to control your raw materials, where charter schools and private schools are. And that is a tremendous disadvantage, in my opinion, to a private school, because you don't get to control or filter the kids that come through the door. Anybody that shows up there, you have to educate them. And that's a different situation than a charter school or private school. And
Give us a call, 303-696-1971, or text us on the 710 KNUS app. If you're just joining us, Tyson Langhofer from Alliance Defending Freedom, head of their academic center for Academic Freedom, talking about a court case being argued in Oklahoma today that will likely go all the way to the U.S. Supreme Court. Drummond v. Oklahoma Statewide Virtual Charter School Board, that asks the question, can state funds be used to charter a religious charter school? Or does it have to be purely secular? When it comes to creating the perfect kitchen or bathroom countertop, it's all about understanding the client's needs and personal style. That's why communication is key. Mitch Floria is the master craftsman with the Art of Granite and works with his team of highly skilled craftsmen, each with their own unique expertise, to bring your vision to life. From single residential installations to large-scale projects, Mitch and his team at the Art of Granite will listen to you and get you what you need. Mitch provides granite, marble, quartz, and other materials from his own warehouse in Denver West at wholesale prices with no markup, so you can get the most for your budget. Mention KNUS and you can choose a free bathroom countertop or a free sink or free backsplash with the purchase of your fantastic new kitchen countertops, or get 15% off your entire project with the purchase of any countertop package. That's a good deal. Schedule a consultation with Mitch and visit his beautiful showroom in Denver West, or call Mitch at 303-386-5919. That's 303-386-5919. Or you can visit his website at theartofgranite.com to start dreaming about your new countertops. That's theartofgranite.com. Lots of calls and text messages. We'll get to those. You're listening to The Jeff and Bill Show.
News Talk 710, KNUS.
At this hour in London, I'm Stuart Smith, and here are the top stories we're following. AT&T says a data breach leaked millions of customers' information online. Hayley Bianco explains how you'll know if you are affected.
The theft of sensitive information belonging to millions of AT&T's current and former customers has been recently discovered online. In a weekend announcement addressing the data breach, AT&T said that a data set found on the dark web contains information including some social security numbers and passcodes for about 7.6 million current account holders and 65.4 million former account holders. Full names, email addresses, mailing address, phone numbers, dates of birth, and AT&T account numbers may have also been compromised. The impacted data is from 2019 or earlier and does not appear to include financial information or call history. Consumers impacted by this breach should be receiving an email or letter directly from AT&T about the incident. The email notices began going out on Saturday.
The Indian government is attempting to bring back 5,000 citizens trapped in Cambodia. Authorities say they were lured there with offers of employment, but are now being forced to take part in cyber fraud scams. Indian officials believe Chinese scammers are responsible for running the fake schemes. And that's what you need to know at this hour. I'm Stuart Smith in London on Salem News Channel.
Just wrapping up a conversation with Tyson Langhofer. He's Senior Counsel and Director for the Center of Academic Freedom with Alliance Defending Freedom. He gave us insight into a court case being argued in Oklahoma today, Drummond v. Oklahoma statewide virtual charter school board. You may wonder what this has to do with us here in the state of Colorado. Well, if this makes it all the way to the U.S. Supreme Court, the state will not be able to ban the chartering of religious schools, charter schools, in the state. So if you wanted to start a state-funded, partially funded, Catholic charter school, for instance, the state of Colorado could not stop you from doing that, which opened up a bigger discussion on whether or not charter schools are helping or hurting our communities. Good text message here from 0359. I'm a supporter of school choice, but the reality is charter schools' success have much to do with demographics, student profiles, and parent commitment. They don't have to keep students with discipline problems or extra special needs, and many of them require parent volunteer time. I do know that's the case. So we can't do the same in regular public schools. Not wrong about some of that. It does bring in a different audience, a different group, a different demographic, a different level of parent engagement, which I mentioned. I remember one time we were having an issue in our own school, and I said to the headmaster, you realize our school, which is a conservative charter school based off of Hillsdale's model and is connected with Hillsdale, the conservative school in Michigan. And I was like, we've literally emptied all the schools around us of the most engaged conservative moms. The mama bears have made up this entire school, and you're shocked that they're hold your feet to the fire. They're engaged. They are super engaged. I mean, they read through all the curriculum. They show up to all the student, the parent meetings and the parent nights and all that stuff. They are highly, highly engaged. It's like an entire school of conservative mama bears. And you know, the school's doing pretty well. So
and I'm on the other end of that a little bit because we've talked about it and I've been on the air and honest about it. But my oldest son suffered a brain injury during birth.
Mm-hmm.
He can't go to a public school. He can't go to a charter school. Can't go to a private school because they do not offer the services for him.
Mm-hmm.
It is not a choice. And there is no charter that is opening up for special ed kids. Not a single one of them, because they are incredibly expensive. So nobody's doing it. So
but have you been pretty happy with the school your kid goes to?
Yeah, it's ups and downs, because part of it being he was on the forefront of many of the special ed, because again, he's in his mid-20s right now. So we're talking 2 decades ago.
Yeah.
So many of the services that exist now don't exist. In fact, he had to have a waiver because he was one of the first children in Cherry Creek high schools to be able to bring a laptop into class in order to take notes. He had teachers pushing back on him saying, no, you can't use that. And he had to have a special waiver that he carried with him saying, no, this is approved by the district. He was one of the first 3 kids, I think it was 3 that were given that waiver first, because his handwriting is absolutely atrocious. You can't read it. But more importantly, he has such short-term memory loss that if he looks at the screen or the board in front of him and has to then turn down to the page and write, he loses what he was writing. But he can look at something and type. He's that good of a typist. That's okay. That connection sits there with him. And so that's why it was done. But what I look at in some of these charter schools and these private schools, I look at funding being funneled away from programs that can help him. And I'm not given as a parent that same choice. Everybody talks about, well, this helps with competition and this helps with choice. Not for everybody. I don't get that choice.
But what
Students
would be
like
an example of funding that you guys haven't got that you'd want to have?
What I'm saying is that the total school funding at public school, he costs more. And if you pull students out, their total funding goes down. And so when that goes down, there are choices that are made. And sometimes because of the cost associated, they impact him in an outsized manner, simply because when you're looking at the ledger, his education costs more. So if you're going to start cutting services, it's going to impact him in outsized ways versus other kids. And the real issue that I have in the core of me are the parents that have kids like mine don't get a choice. We don't have a choice. This is all about parents and parents being given a choice and supporting the student into getting them into an educational system they want, except for kids like mine. They don't have it.
How would you respond, though, if like kids like mine, if I want to give them the education that I want for them, I've got to go pay extra.
Yeah.
So because the state isn't going to help us. So I want to go, I want them to have a private religious education in high school. So that's the education I want them to have.
Yeah.
The burden is upon me to pay more.
Yep. Yeah. Okay.
And then in your case, if you wanted additional education support for your son, wouldn't the burden be upon you to pay more?
Yes. And that's the thing. So the burden should be on you to pay more. If you want that educational services, yes. The idea that we're taking state funds and doing it. Yeah. And we did. There were some things during middle school and even high school where we did take extra funds and have him get some extra services outside of it. He spent a week at Children's Hospital trying to diagnose how his brain works so we could set him up for success going into middle school and high school. And that was the purchase price of a small automobile that came out of our pocket in order to do that. So yes, so that's why I sit here and say, I understand. I've taken on some of those extra burdens and those burdens are on us. And so the people that want the private education things, that burden's on you. Make that choice, please. Please do. And I'm a huge fan of
I feel like we're both
education.
arguing that the state should help supplement more.
Yeah, but we argue in how the supplement is adjudicated. That's the thing we're at. You want them to supplement the private education. And I'm saying what happens, what happens are it ends up negatively impacting children like mine and parents like I am, simply because we don't have a choice. Same thing with ESL kids that show up here that necessarily don't speak the language. They don't have a choice to go to a charter school. They can't go to a private school. They're not offered. Same thing with any kids that are having any sort of a mental health issue. And they need any support. Those kids are going to be in the public schools. They can't go to the charter. They can't go to the private schools. And I have a problem then at the end when people go, well, look, these charter schools are succeeding so well. Yeah, but you don't have to deal with the difficult kids. You don't have that. So until we're playing the same game, I don't think we get to judge them the same way. That's a personal feeling.
I'd love to get your calls and texts on this. Give us a call, 303-696-1971, 303-696-1971, or text us on the 710 KNUS app. One thing we haven't talked at all about is the role of kind of special interest groups driving agendas in school, which I think is one of the primary reasons why conservatives are leaving, and
I'd agree.
Teachers unions.
Oh, don't get me started on the teachers union.
And the problems there. So
the teachers unions are, in the best argument against a public sector union. They have lost their way. They do a lot of things that are very beneficial for the union members.
Yeah.
But they have lost their way, and they sometimes think they're in charge of the school rather than realizing they're there for the kids. And I fundamentally disagree on many choices that union makes. And one of them being what happened during COVID. I understand what they were saying, but the idea of refusing to open up those schools, I get it. They're like, hey, the kids are germ factories and the teachers are the ones that are more likely to get sick, and we're the ones that can put our lives in danger. I get it, but there should have been some things to deal with the teachers that are at risk rather than a blanket statement saying no kids. That was wrong. Absolutely wrong. And it wasn't. And where I get mad about it is the union was not focusing on the kids. Damn it. Focus on the kids. I understand you're the membership, but you're teachers. Focus on the kids.
This is a conversation not happening on any other radio program today, I guarantee you. That's why I love this show. A good deep dive on school choice, religious schools, charter schools, how it's all going to fit together, and what's best for our society to move forward. I really appreciate all the text messages we've got on this. We all want a kinder, gentler way to experience wellness and overcome pain. I'm thriving and fighting back my workout soreness with UltraCur. UltraCur is a patented non-prescription natural capsule that works fast. Surveys show that 50% of people using UltraCur find relief within 48 hours and half of those within 2 hours. Experience UltraCur for free. Go to any Denver Metro Natural Grocers and ask for the health coach or the vitamin manager for your free 3-day trial of UltraCur. UltraCur is fueled by patented technology to give you the true edge to support your peak wellness, energy, and active lifestyle. If you've tried everything without much success, even other natural curcumin products, you owe it to yourself to try UltraCur today. UltraCur gives you unique control over your daily wellness. It's gentle on your stomach, and it's a natural antioxidant. Get curious, Denver. Head to the Natural Grocers and grab your free 3-day UltraCur trial. No strings attached. Wondering about the research? Get the lowdown at getultranow.com. That's getultranow.com. We'll get to your calls and texts next. You're listening to The Jeff and Bill Show.
News Talk 710, KNUS.
All right, in the 8 o'clock hour, we're going to get into this issue. You know that Timmy Hernandez introduced a bill the other day concerning requirements to issue an identification document to individuals who are not lawfully present in the United States.
Oh, I thought it was that we were all going to become Gazans. Is it? We're all Palestinians now? Yeah.
Driver's licenses for illegals coming to the state of Colorado.
We're going to have to learn that chant. What is it? Something to the sea? I don't remember.
You're listening to the Jeff and Bill Show.
News Talk 710 CanUS.
Good morning, Denver. You've tuned into the Jeff and Bill Show on 710 KNUS. I'm your co-host, Jeff Hunt, along with Bill Thorpe, bringing you the freshest insights, hottest takes from the right, left, center, and crazy. That often depends on where you stand on those other ones.
Yeah, or what I'm saying. So normally we get into the crazy.
Going to be a nice day today. Warmer than yesterday. Partly cloudy, 58 degrees. We're going to get to the full weather report in just a second. We're gearing up for a whole nother hour of engaging discussions, critical analysis, and your calls, because this is where Denver's voice is heard loud and clear. So grab your coffee, Denver, and let's dive into the issues that matter most to you right here, right now. This hour, we're going to discuss a few things related to illegal immigrants in the state. One, this wild story from Channel 9. Don't normally give them a lot of credit, but weird. Denver warns new migrants to leave.
Yeah, get out. It's like the movie.
They put the big sign up. It's
I know.
2018.
It's crazy.
Said, we heart immigrants.
Yeah.
Says lack of resources means they will now suffer in the state. It's like peak leftism for me, where, you know, it's all about the kind of bleeding heart. We want to help. We don't really think through what this is fully going to cost or what this is going to do to the citizens of our city. But we just want to kind of jump on this feel-good bandwagon that other cities were doing, you know, New York, Chicago, San Francisco, LA. We're all going to help. And $120 million budget crisis later, and the fact that illegal immigrants all around the world have gotten word that Denver is a place where you can come to, they just can't handle it anymore. We're going to play this audio for you in just a second. And yesterday, Timmy Hernandez introduced a new bill that would allow identification documents to individuals who are not lawfully present in the United States, driver's licenses for illegals. Colorado. California's had this now for quite some time. And I think it really worked out well for that state, you know. We'll get into all of this and more. Let's go to the news with Blake Olson. Good morning, Blake.
Morning, Jeff. Morning, Bill. 36 and clear in Denver, expecting sunny skies and highs in the upper 50s today. The 710 5-day forecast is coming up. Our top story, Colorado Senator Michael Bennet taking care of the big issues. He wants Congress to study cow belches or burps. He says they're sending millions of pounds of greenhouse gases into the atmosphere, and he's introduced a bill as he tries to save the world.
I tweeted about this last night. The ability of the left to really focus, morally focus on completely irrelevant things is just amazing to me. Cow burps. We have a U.S. senator from Colorado that we sent to Washington, D.C. to work on cow burps.
I think he's funded by Tums. I think that's it. He's funded by Big N Acid. He's on the take. Just a plop, plop, fizz, fizz. That's all he's looking for.
And they wonder why we hate them. The city of Denver will close 3 of the remaining 4 hotel shelters for illegal immigrants this week. Denver expects to spend $120 million to house illegal immigrants this year. Remember, the mayor said they're saving $60 million. Spokesman John Ewan.
If you could just put everybody in one facility and you have the means to do so, yeah, it is cheaper. It's also just easier on everyone. It's easier even on the nonprofits so they can get in there and work with people and they're not spread all over the place.
Colorado lawmakers considering a new bill that would expand bias crime laws to crimes related to gender identity and expression. It passed the first step Monday. Tricia Calvarisi won nearly 65% of the vote last night and will be the Democratic nominee to run in the special election to fill Ken Buck's seat in CD4. August Romero is being held in Adams County on first-degree murder charges. He is the suspect who ran over and killed Robbie Valenzuela on Saturday in Westminster. An Aurora family offering a $5,000 reward for information on a hit-and-run driver who struck their 6-year-old daughter, who thankfully survived. It happened near South Iravan and East Carolina Place in Aurora. Contact Metro Denver Crime Stoppers. 3 people accused of throwing rocks through the windshields of cars in Jefferson County last year, one which killed 20-year-old Alexa Bartell, pleaded not guilty in court Monday. Joseph Koenig, Nicholas Carroll Chick, and Zachary Quack are charged with first-degree murder. Quack and Carroll Chick will go to trial in June. It's 31 in Castle Rock, 34 in North Glen, 36 in Denver. Nuggets play host to the Suns tonight. Avs lose to the Blue Jackets. Rockies lose. They open the season on Friday. Astros, Ronel Blanco with the no-hitter for the Astros, the first no-hitter of the season. Iowa and Caitlin Clark advance in the women's tournament. And resetting the Monday conversation, Pastor John Amachukwu goes viral. He says he knows that it's the Obama-Biden administration and they're intentionally attacking Christianity. Hold your pastor accountable on all this LGBTQ plus stuff.
I'm not shocked by that because we know what they stand for. The question is, what are Christian churches going to do tomorrow? Will your pastor mount the sacred desk and act as if he doesn't know what is going on? Or will he address the issue and say something about it? Will he play politics and say, we're not called to judge and we shouldn't say anything about these issues and we just need to love like Jesus and serve the community well? What is your preacher going to say? And I'll be the first to tell you this. If your pastor doesn't say anything about this, find a new church, like quickly, because you really need to, because your pastor is woke.
I agree. I don't know what you guys think. I say leave, but that's just me.
Right.
Just me.
Sometimes it's easy to find the good churches these days.
Yeah.
So
that's right.
They put certain flags outside.
Yeah, I know. Believe me, I see it in numerous places up and down the Front Range. All right, back to you guys. Jeff and Bill continue. Blake Olson News Talk 710 KNUS.
The 710 5-day forecast calls for some very pleasant spring weather here in Denver and along the Front Range for the next few days. Warming to the upper 50s and sunny today. Breezy north winds, clear tonight, low to mid 30s. Mostly sunny Wednesday, good looking day. Mid to upper 60s, upper 30s Wednesday night. Highs will be low 70s Thursday, low 70s Friday. And we're looking at temperatures starting Saturday mild, but Saturday night and Sunday sharply colder with showers. Meteorologist Don Day, 710 KNUS. The 710 5-day forecast calls for some very
All right, I stand corrected, Bill.
Oh, no,
I
you're
was
sitting right
wrong.
now. You're sitting, not standing.
I know, and this is why I love
What?
our listeners.
Yeah. Surprised it's not me that got
Colorado
it wrong.
already offers licenses to illegals. They just have to be here for 2 years. The new bill would allow them to
Oh.
get it immediately.
Huh, interesting.
Welcome to our state. This is a fascinating story from Channel 9, which I don't give them a ton of credit, but in this case, they did a pretty good job on the story. Listen to this.
The city of Denver is offering a stark warning to newly arriving migrants. Stay here and you will suffer. Denver's offering migrants help to move on to anywhere else in the country. Tonight, for the first time, we're able to see how Denver tries to convince migrants to leave in video obtained by Next from inside a migrant shelter.
The opportunities are over. That's Andres Carrera, political director for Denver Mayor Mike Johnston.
Nueva York te da más, Chicago te da más. Entonces sugiero que vaya por allá, donde hasta también con un albergue de más largo plazo, también hay más oportunidades de trabajo por allá.
Carrera is Denver's so-called newcomer communications liaison. That means that he meets the busloads of new arrivals. The city says this group got here on March 26, sent up by Texas's Republican Governor Greg Abbott. He warns them the jobs, the resources, the opportunities have already gone to the 40,000 migrants who came to Denver before them.
Hemos recibido demasiados migrantes y por eso se acabaron los recursos. Mira, no te vamos a bloquear. Si quieres permanecer aquí, no estoy aquí para bloquearte, estoy aquí para avisarte que tu camino no ha terminado. Si permanecen aquí, vas a sufrir hasta más y eso no lo quiero ver.
Parents listen quietly as children play on the floor. as Denver tells these families that have sometimes walked from one continent to another that they just have to keep moving. But they don't have to walk. Denver will buy them a bus ticket.
Solo es que tu camino no ha terminado. Tu camino no ha terminado. Que viajas un tantito más. No tienes que caminar por ningún parte. Podemos comprarte boleto gratuito. Puedes ir a cualquier ciudad. Hasta la frontera de Canadá te llevamos. Donde sea.
The city says it won't buy bus tickets to Canada, but it will help migrants get to American border cities up north. It's a desperate pitch by Denver, a city that has taken in more migrants per capita than any city outside the southern border, and is looking at $120 million in budget cuts to pay for migrant services. The moment of truth. Who in the crowd wants to go to a different city? And who wants to stay in Denver? Todos, a migrant says. Everyone.
The clock is now ticking for the migrants who arrived on that bus. Families have 6 weeks in Denver shelters and then they must go. Individuals get 14 days in shelter. As they were warned, after that, there may not be resources to help them.
So the city of Denver has run into reality. You just can't have everybody in your city. You can't pay for the services you want to provide. You're going to have to make decisions. This goes back to Danielle with Aurora. Danielle Jurinsky, the city councilwoman in Aurora. We had a conversation with her a few weeks ago on this show. And the city of Aurora said, we have limited resources. U.S. citizens are going to get first priority. That is where the money comes from. That is where the services are going to go. The city of Denver said something different. They had to spend $120 million in what would have been services to their own citizens on providing services for illegal immigrants. What were those services? Healthcare, education, legal services, job finding services, and housing services. That's what the city of Denver did. And now they're at a point where they are having to tell people to leave. They are at a point where they used to criticize Greg Abbott for doing the same thing they are now doing. Greg Abbott, the governor of Texas, was this heartless man that was busing all these people to other cities. They are now doing the exact same thing they criticized him for, because this is a reality issue. You just can't do it all.
Yeah, this is what happens when you virtue signal and don't think anything's going to happen. And you accurately brought up the time frame a lot of this virtue signaling came about, and it was political.
Yeah,
it was a political statement. It was something that was supposed to be positive for Democrats and negative for Republicans. And again, it was nothing more than virtue signaling, simply because the cities didn't have to deal with the actual impact. None of the cities had to deal with any of the functions of actually being a sanctuary city. And now we are having to deal with it. And whether or not you agree with our immigration policies, we can accurately evaluate the strain on local services and systems. That is real, regardless of your politics on the issue. The idea that there is not enough money to go around and that services for individuals that are American citizens are being cut because of that. That's real. And whether or not you are, support what's going on at the border or not, think that we are doing a correct thing or a bad thing, you need to deal with this reality first, in my opinion. This is what happens. And if this is the consequence of some of these lax, I will say, both immigration and asylum policies, then perhaps maybe we need both sides to start talking to each other and figuring out a solution rather than, and this is my opinion, making it political. And I come to that political conclusion again. I should outline for the listener. I'm not a Democrat, I'm not a Republican. I've been unaffiliated for decades. I don't belong to either party because I hate both of them fundamentally. And this, to me, is a perfect example of why I wish both parties would die in a fire, because I don't feel they want to come to a conclusion and have any sort of a solution. And I see it over and over again on both the Republican and the Democrat sides. This is more valuable to both of them as a political cudgel than it is to actually fix the system. And the problem that I have with that fundamentally is people get hurt. Individuals that show up here legally or illegally, what happens to them is going to be a negative simply because of the fact that we're not worried about fixing them. We can't figure out who the real asylum seekers are. We can't figure out who the real legal aliens are. We're not really worried about figuring out who the criminals are. We're not worried about that. We're not worried about the consequences of any of this. We're not worried about helping them be acclimated into the community. We're not worried about that. Not at all.
And what I think what partially gets me so frustrated about this is somewhere in Latin America or China or India is a well-educated doctor that would love to come to America and is going to go through hell of an immigration system to try to make that happen, right? Like
in some cases, yes, he or she also could come in illegally, and we have stories of those, and we also have them stories of them coming in. I know, but
good people with good families want to do it the right way, and we have made it so flipping hard on them. And then anybody can walk across that border from that wants to do America harm and welcome. And Timmy Hernandez will give you a driver's license.
Even the asylum seekers, though, because that person that is that doctor, that lawyer, the neurologist, whatever we want to talk about, that person could be coming from a place or a country where they do feel that, gang activity, crime
is to get out of this.
Yep. And so they're trying to claim asylum here, and then we don't adjudicate that properly. And while they're stuck in that process of whether or not they're asylum seekers, they can't then establish themselves as that doctor, as that surgeon, as that professor. They can't. So we are putting, even when they claim asylum, we have hurdles in front of them. So the people that you want to be here to be functional and productive members of society can't do it even when they try to come here and claim asylum. Can't do it. It's so broken on so many levels. But I don't think either party cares, because it's worth more to them to be able to run an advertisement about it and to campaign on it.
I think Republicans get elected this November, House, Senate, and presidency, which I understand we had for the first 2 years of Trump's presidency, would have a mandate to address this more aggressively than if Democrats remained in power in one of those three.
Yeah. But the problem is that what I see from where I sit, the solutions the Republicans have are ham-handed and dysfunctional. They do not, in my opinion, achieve the results that they promise. But I'm not holding back on the Democrats and saying that they have the right thing. The Democrats as well. Dumb, ham-handed, wrong-focused policies that aren't going to fix the problem either.
Do you believe the critique from Elon Musk and others that Democrats want this to happen so they have more power as a result of the census?
No, I don't.
Why
I
not?
don't fundamentally believe that. Only because I don't hear the Democrats talking about asylum on a major level. That's what you would need. You would need to have asylum.
You would just need a census to count to include them, and then you would get the Congress people.
Here's the thing, though, is that different issues, because the idea of the amnesty, because I keep hearing about the idea of turning them into votes. Now, if you were turning them into votes, we need to have some sort of amnesty, etc. If we want to count them in the census, I think there is a conversation you can have about it, and only because if you're talking about resources that need to go to an area based on population, you probably should count all the population. I just think that fundamentally, if we're talking about we need to decide where services go based on a population, I don't think that we can judge that accurately by not counting an entire population, just based on numbers. Now, we can talk about what that means and how we separate legal and illegal and legal and amnesty and other things like that. And I think that should be part of the discussion. But can I come to the table and say, okay, this area in the country has X number of people that are illegal or are amnesty or whatever it is. And because of that, that should be included. I can come to the table, but am I saying blanket that count them? No. But I feel also that Elon Musk, what he's doing is he's saying they just want to turn them into voters. And the problem I have with that is, one, amnesty is not being proposed. The other one being, why is the assumption that you turn them all into Democrat voters? That's the weird thing for me, that they assume because Latin
they
America.
broke the law to get here.
But hang on a second. But here's the thing.
Democrats seem to mind that.
I know, but here's the thing, though, is that what would happen if the Republicans embraced the Hispanic community and actually talked to amnesty and said, we want to get rid of the criminals, but those of you that are here and productive members of society that hold many of our conservative family and religious beliefs, we'd love to have you as Americans. We understand that you may have broken that law crossing the border, but we also understand that you are looking for the American dream, and we do the flag thing, and we put our hands over our heart, and we embrace you, even though it's broken. You're now an American. I have a feeling that appeal would work to make them conservative Republican voters. And so I disagree with just the premise that all the illegals are automatically going to be Democrat voters, because culturally, I see many, many, many more things that are available for conservatives than there are for the liberals. And so I think Republicans are discounting that too much and using that incorrectly, because chances are they'd really, really want to listen to you and really be your voters.
Give us a call, 303-696-1971, 303-696-1971. Denver's out of money, and they're out of patience to telling illegal immigrants they need to get on a bus and go to another city.
I thought they had a lot of free money. Can't they just give us
No,
more free money?
it's just remarkable.
Wanted to do more free money for people.
I'm like having flashbacks of the criticism of Greg Abbott. How dare you do that? How dare you? And, well, now Mike Johnston's in the same boat. And only just a few years ago, short years ago, a big welcome banner on the front of the Denver City and Council building. Give us a call, 303-696-1971. Text us on the 710 KNUS app. Did Danielle Jurinsky and the city of Aurora win the bet we laid out there that their policies were going to be better? It seems like Mike Johnston's policies are collapsing in the city of Denver. Folks, it's Jeff Hunt on behalf of the Colorado Farm Bureau. Whether you pulled out your skis or snowmobiles this last winter, it was a great year for winter fun, but the snow means even more to Colorado agriculture. And I want you to know that our state's farmers and ranchers are doing their part to protect our future water resources. As a former river guide, I can tell you how critical water is to the state of Colorado, to its recreational industry, but most importantly to our ag community and to the lives we live down here in the city of Denver. The people of Colorado agriculture continue improving the efficiency of their irrigation systems and adopting farming practices that help crops use less water to grow. They're planting drought-resistant varieties, and they're leading talks with state policymakers about how to preserve water supplies when we have good years like this last one. My friends at the Colorado Farm Bureau are leaders in water conservation and water policy. They understand how to balance water for crops and water for families. There's that old saying in Colorado that whiskey's for drinking and water's for fighting. Well, with the Colorado Farm Bureau, they're laying out a good agenda to protect our water rights. You can do your part. I recommend you join and become a member today. Go to coloradofarmbureau.com. That's coloradofarmbureau.com to join them. We'll get to your calls and texts. You're listening to The Jeff and Bill Show.
News Talk 710, KNUS.
At this hour in London, I'm Stuart Smith, and here are the top stories we're following. An Israeli airstrike in Gaza has killed 7 aid workers, including an American-Canadian dual national. That's according to authorities there and the aid group they were working for. World Central Kitchen said its workers were delivering food in what it described as a deconflicted zone, and that they were travelling in vehicles which displayed the charity's logo. The aid agency said the workers were transporting tons of food from the recently established maritime route and had been coordinating with the Israeli Defense Forces. Israel called the incident tragic and says it's investigating. A judge has rejected 8 motions from Hunter Biden's legal team, who had hoped to have his tax fraud case dismissed. Lawyers had tried to convince the California court that prosecutors had given in to political pressure when deciding to file charges, and that an immunity agreement negotiated last summer was actually still in effect. With those motions dismissed, the son of the president remains on track for trial in June. Authorities are planning to open a temporary alternate shipping channel in the U.S. city of Baltimore for commercially essential vessels. Maryland Governor Wes Moore is trying to convince Congress to approve funding for that operation, claiming it's a national problem that will impact workers from Kentucky to Tennessee. And that's what you need to know at this hour. I'm Stuart Smith in London on Salem News Channel.
Denver's newcomer communications liaison, Andres Carrera, who also serves as Mayor Mike Johnston's political director, caught on video telling newly arrived migrants that Denver cannot support them. But we had a banner. We had a nice big banner that welcomed them all, and now we are sending them out. I thought we got really mad at Greg Abbott for doing pretty much the same thing. Let's go to Don in Aurora. Don, you're on the Jeff and Bill Show, News Talk 710 KNUS. Good morning, Don.
Good morning, guys. I was sitting here working, listening to you guys comment on this fiasco going on in Denver. I want to maybe look at this from a different perspective.
Please.
Denver already has a rather serious homeless problem before this even happened. And I think this has less to do with resources and more to do with there's the mayor's office is starting to get indications that people are starting to get a little fed up with all these migrants pouring in here. I'm here in Aurora and I see it.
Yeah, I mean, a few weeks ago, Mike Johnston commented on kind of the bet I talked to Danielle Jurinsky, the city councilwoman from Aurora, about, which was which city is going to do better. And he doubled down. He said, we are going to be a better city because we promote diversity. We allow illegal immigrants to come into the city, that the city of Denver is going to be better. That is the mayor of the city of Denver. What do you think of that?
Well, what's a great line from True Grit? Tough talk from a one-eyed fat man. I don't,
fantastic.
I mean, you can say whatever you can say whatever you want, but as Ronald Reagan once said, they may not see the light, but they definitely feel the heat.
Yeah.
And I think people are starting to get. I think people in Denver are already starting to get fed up. And these migrants aren't going anywhere.
No, why would they? They're getting services here.
What are you doing in Chicago and New York? I mean, Chicago and New York are already trying to pawn theirs off on other people.
Don, are you going to support Republicans this upcoming election to deal with this immigration issue?
I'm going to paraphrase what Billy said. I am not a Democrat, and I have not been a Republican. I haven't for decades. I personally wish both parties would jump into an active volcano and take the socialists and communists with them.
My man, I love you.
I don't know who I'm going to vote for. As of right now, if you ask me right now, if he's on the ballot, I'm going to go with RFK Jr.
Really? What about him appeals to you?
He's not Donald Trump and he's not Joe Biden.
Yeah.
Yeah. See,
And
Don, there's a guy in Texas, I believe, that has changed his name legally to literally anybody else and has announced that he is running for president. On his driver's license, it says literally anybody else. Dude's on the ballot in Colorado. I got to think long and hard. How do I not pick literally anybody else?
Don, I want to ask you to listen to this audio. This is RFK yesterday talking about the true threat to democracy is Joe Biden. Listen to this. I want to get your reaction to this.
But do you really believe that when people talk about the threat to democracy that Trump poses, do you really think that is an equal evil to Biden?
I mean, listen, I can make the argument that President Biden is a much worse threat to democracy. And the reason for that is President Biden is the first candidate in history, the first president in history that has used the federal agencies to censor political speech, so to censor his opponent. I can say that because I just won a case in the Federal Court of Appeals and now before the Supreme Court. It shows that he started censoring not just me. For 37 hours after he took the oath of office, he was censoring me. No president in the country has ever done that. The greatest threat to democracy is not somebody who questions election returns, but a president of the United States who used the power of his office to force the social media companies, Facebook, Instagram, Twitter, to open a portal and give access to that portal to the FBI, to the CIA, to the IRS, to CISA, to NIH, to censor his political critics. President Biden, for the first president in history, to use his power over the Secret Service to deny Secret Service protection to one of his political opponents for political reasons. He's weaponizing the federal agencies. Those are really critical threats to democracy.
Trump, of course.
Don, do you agree with RFK that Joe Biden is weaponizing the federal agencies?
Yeah, but let me add this onto that. When was the last time somebody said something really off the wall, bat crap crazy, and 15, 20 years later, it turns out they were right?
Yeah, I actually think that happens pretty common.
Yeah. So, I believe that. I happen to believe the Republic is dysfunctional, and there needs to be something that happens. You know, as I've said before in another show, I'm a big believer in creative destruction, but the bad part of that is the destruction part. We will come out of this, but you know, how much pain will we have to endure?
What do you think of Nicole Shanahan, his vice presidential pick? I think that seemed to, I mean, she's not a conservative by any means and has funded oftentimes very liberal efforts on criminal justice reform, bail reform that has led to a lot of problems in major cities. But I think it was an effort to draw in Democrat voters. Does that change your perspective at all, that his vice presidential pick is pretty liberal?
No, because the winner of the election is going to be Joe Biden. I don't think there's any real doubt about that.
Why do you think that's the case?
Donald Trump is loathed by a large part of the electorate. It's not the extremes that matter. It's the middle. Okay, and I think most people, if they had a chance between Donald Trump and some of the stuff coming out of his mouth and Joe Biden, will just hold his nose and they'll either vote for Joe Biden or they just won't vote at all.
I appreciate it, Don. Thanks so much for the call. Don from Arvada, his line will be open 303-696-1971. Mary, we'll get to you in just a moment. Losing your hair and you need a simple solution that works. You want the best modern technology with top-rated physicians, something that's guaranteed to work. Guys, you need Dr. Tanya Pauls and her team at Advanced Hair. They've completely redefined hair restoration, from the experience itself to their unmatched results. Receding hairline, bald spot, or thinning hair, address them all with Advanced Hair's simple one-day treatment in a calm, relaxed environment with the most experienced professionals. Advanced Hair has performed tens of thousands of these breakthrough treatments, and get this, your own natural hair begins to regrow the very next day. No one in Denver can offer anything like the advanced FUE found at Advanced Hair, and I highly recommend their team. It starts with your free consultation. Call 720-459-HAIR. If you qualify, you also get $250 off and 250 free hair grafts. Refine your hairline with the team that's redefined hair restoration. That's 720-459-HAIR or advancedhair.com. That's advancedhair.com. Mary, you're going to be up next. You're listening to The Jeff and Bill Show.
News Talk 710, KNUS.
Welcome back to the Jeff and Bill Show. We're talking about the fact that Denver has run out of money and patience dealing with illegal immigrants, sending them to other cities now. Isn't this what we condemned the Texas governor for doing?
Sorry, folks. Denver's closed. Moose Front should have told you. Sorry.
Let's go to Mary in Wyoming. Mary, you're on the Jeff and Bill Show, News Talk 710 KNUS. Good morning, Mary.
Hey, good morning, folks. One of the things I'm going to struggle with is that Bill is so good in presenting his side on it. One of the things that has been irritating me is when he talks about how Donald has not, he promised that he would build a wall and the Mexicans would pay for it. And yet, in a way, you look at what he had to go through. It isn't from lack of trying that he didn't.
Mm-hmm.
And not only though we didn't know, you had activist judges.
Yeah.
You had Chamber of Commerce. You had the Rhinos. You had the Democrats, all wanting open borders, no wall, just anybody can come across.
Well, Mary, and to your point, celebrating the day that they overturned all the executive policies that Donald Trump put into office, Joe Biden, day one, I'm going to overturn these, and celebrating them when he did. No, this is absolutely a problem that they have created for this country under their leadership.
And then, and all the years, I mean, going back to, I also was an independent for 40 years as far as voting. When I came to Colorado, you had a lot of problems thing, and I remember it was Tancredo, what's the word?
Tom Tancredo?
Tom Tancredo. That was when I had to change over to be able to help trying to get a Republican into office. So I took away that independence, but that did not, being an independent or one of the other ones does not make you neutral. I mean, so I struggle when I keep hearing Bill jump in and saying, but I'm an independent. Well, it's obvious you have a disregard for Donald. I'm talking about his policy, not the man.
I understand that, Mary. And to be fair, you're absolutely right. I am not neutral, but I'm unaffiliated. And the reason I say that is because, I mean, between you, me, and Jeff, a lot of people that call in and text in accuse me of being a Democrat or a bleeding heart liberal. And that's not where I sit on the political spectrum. However, I do agree with you full-heartedly that I am in no way, shape, or form neutral. Not at all. And I also believe that anybody who is unaffiliated also is not neutral. We are not homogenous. We lean one way, we lean another way. We are open to vote for either party. But where we are homogenous is in our disgust for both parties. That's where I think that we find, as unaffiliated, a lot of common ground. So that's the only reason I pointed out. But you are absolutely 110% correct that I'm in no way, shape, or form neutral. You are correct on that one. Thank you.
No problem. But the point is that you're discussing this whole thing about illegal immigration. Mm-hmm. These people have no desire to be citizens of this country. They're coming here because they covet our lifestyle, etc. And we don't have a process. I mean, in other words, we don't even know who's coming in. Yep. And not only that, we're dealing with, like I said, those they're not willing to fight for what we have in their own country.
Do you feel
and we're not making them do it?
Do you feel that holds true for the DACA Dreamers?
Unfortunately, how do I say? I think that we have a system right now that we at this point we need to give amnesty. But dadgummit, this is truly the last time. Ronald Reagan said that was so good because they get to bring in all their relatives. Yeah. We don't just look at the numbers. It's what they also bring in with it. Right. It's enough. We should be able to finally say, this is it. It's a good and really mean it. Have the wall built, and you have to go through the process.
Yeah, I would agree with you absolutely, Mary, that unfortunately in some areas, especially DACA and the Dreamers, that we should be looking at something like amnesty. I'm uncomfortable with it, and I agree that it's probably not going to be the last time. And I think we need to change our immigration and asylum system in order to accomplish that. But I want to kind of go back to the beginning of your conversation here when you were talking about Donald Trump being in power and how the activist judges and the Democrats and the rhinos prevented him from implementing his immigration plans. If that is true, what leads us to believe that this time he will be more effective, given those same people are still in place?
I think that the tide has turned finally. One of the things that I have noticed is the people that are around me that were pretty much snickering at me because I believed in having, not having open borders. Well, I'm starting to see, given what's been going on in their lives and how open immigration is impacting them, I think they're coming around to the point.
Yeah, Mary.
I think especially when these jobs issues, I think we're going to have a great big. The next challenge is that they're going to be taking over the jobs. You watch.
Mary,
Appreciate that.
to your point that the tide has changed on this issue, I think you're exactly right.
I think she's right too.
Appreciate the call, Mary from Wyoming. Her line's open 303-696-1971.
I love her calls.
303-696-1971. She has a lot of wisdom and a wonderful, beautiful voice.
Yeah, and I love how she calls me out without calling me out, and how she points out these nuances. I really appreciate the conversations with her.
Eliminate the stress and uncertainty of selling your home while still getting top dollar with Gay Ribble and the Empower Home team with Keller Williams Sell. Their Sell with Certainty program guarantees your home will sell without even having to list it, and at the same time getting you top dollar. Gay Ribble and the Empower Home team guarantee the sale, ensuring a seamless process and eliminating the stress while getting you the best price. Get paid twice with their Sell with Certainty program. Give Gay Ribble and the Empower Home team a call today at 833-301-SOLD. Getting an offer above your home's asking price is great, but you're leaving money on the table by not working with Gay Ribble and the Empower Home team. Gay and her experts get their clients an average of $30,000 more. Could you use an extra $30,000? That's precisely why you need Gay Ribble and the Empower Home team. Their exclusive database of over 14,000 pre-screened buyers is ready to make a purchase. Take the stress and hassle out of selling your home while getting the best price. Here's an unbeatable offer. Gay Ribble and the Empower Home team will sell your house for 100% of the asking price, or Gay will pay you the difference. It's an offer you simply cannot refuse. Get 100% of your asking price guaranteed with Gay Ribble and the Empower Home team. Call them at 833-301-SOLD, 833-301-SOLD, or go to gayasthebuyers.com. That's gay, Gaye, hasthebuyers.com. Joe in Arvada, you're on the Jeff and Bill Show, News Talk 710 KNUS. Good morning, Joe.
Well, good morning, Jeff. I loved your RFK take. RFK is obviously voting for Donald Trump. Oh, yeah, he's running too, but everybody knows he's not going to get more. Well, he might get a little more percentage than Ross Perot did. Here's the issue. Point blank, it will be Joe Biden or Donald Trump.
Mm-hmm.
Anybody who doesn't understand that it's a binary choice needs to, get an IQ larger than a turnip.
Here's a question I have for you, Joe. Do you think, and this comes from our friend Hugh Hewitt, do you think there's any undecided voter left?
Well, I will acknowledge that it is the unscrupulous, mushy middle, Billy, that is going to decide it. And, it's a very simple choice. I was talking to my accountant. Well, she's my tax preparer, not my accountant. I don't have enough money to do that. But she said, well, who are you voting for? I said, of course, Donald Trump. If you have half a brain, you'll vote for Donald Trump. And she said, oh, she smartly retorted, well, what if I have a full brain? And I said, well, I'm reluctant to suggest you do anything illegal, but go ahead then and vote for Trump twice, or just have your 50-year-old son that's in the basement vote for him too, or you'll kick him out.
Why is it so, in your mind, Joe, why is it so critical that Donald Trump wins this election?
It's very simple. You look at every issue. Joe Biden is destroying our country in every issue. If you go down the immigration, who's going to send back some of these hyenas that are destroying our country? Some of the people that are coming in that are dealing drugs or literal terrorists, who's going to send them back? Forget about sending them all back. It's impossible. There's 50 million.
But Trump
you're
says he's
never
going
to
to.
send them all back.
Trump
Let's
says he's going
send
to. Trump said he's
the
going
worst.
to. He promised.
I understand. He's going to do his best, but it's
Okay.
a pragmatic question, Billy.
Okay.
How are you going to send 50 million people somewhere? You're not.
So this is
But
like the wall
you
thing.
might be able to
Where
send
he's gonna
5
build the wall and not
million
build the
people.
wall.
You might be able to send 5 million people back. Let's send the 5 million worst back first. That's the pragmatic decision. The question of whether or not the wall is built is something that, yes, Donald Trump had to fight his entire term. Well, guess what? It ain't going to be a fight this time because everybody's on board because you've got tents growing in your neighborhood. The wall has to be built and everybody knows it. Every other country on planet Earth has it. So that's an issue that's decided. RFK said it himself. Let's see, the freedom issue. Who's more dangerous? Somebody who's destroying every facet of your freedom, Joe Biden, or somebody like Donald Trump who loves America, who wants to give you more freedom, who wants to give you more money? I mean, if you go down the list, if you do your decision test, they used to call it, I think it was the Abe Lincoln, Ben Franklin close. You go down, you put every issue, and you say Joe Biden on the left, Donald Trump on the right. Every single issue, Donald Trump wins, including your pocketbook, except for, nasty tweets and a
Joe, I
word
appreciate the
popping
call.
out.
Thanks so much, Joe from Arvada. In the 9 o'clock hour, we're going to host Scott Shamblin and Nicole McBurney. These are names that you haven't learned of yet, but they are producing some of the funniest videos down at the state capitol where they are agreeing with the radical Democrats down there and using their own logic to a level of kind of extremism that's even making the Democrats get angry. It's a form of satire that is hilarious. You're not going to want to miss this interview because they're actually kind of, making things happen at the state capitol. So I appreciate it. You're listening to the Jeff and Bill Show.
News Talk 710, KNUS.
9 a.m. in the Mile High City. Good morning, Denver. You've tuned into the Jeff and Bill Show on 710 KNUS. I'm your co-host, Jeff Hunt, along with Bill Thorpe, bringing you the freshest insights, hottest takes from the right, left, center, and crazy. Your
And I'm Jim
viewpoint of
Beniers.
crazy would be often where you're standing, especially on these recent discussions. It's going to be a nicer day in Denver today. We'll get the full weather in just a second, but a high of 58, partly cloudy, and it's going to get warmer, which is nice. Gearing up for a whole nother hour of engaging discussions, critical analysis, most importantly, your calls and texts, because this is where Denver's voice is heard loud and clear. So grab your coffee and let's dive into the issues that matter most to you right here, right now. Let's check in on the news with Blake Olson. Good morning, Blake.
Morning, Jeff and Bill. 41 and sunny in Denver, expecting sunny skies and highs in the upper 50s today. The 710 5-day forecast is coming up. Our top story, Israeli Prime Minister Benjamin Netanyahu says there will be an investigation into the strike that killed 7 aid workers in Gaza. In a statement, Netanyahu said there was a tragic event in which our forces unintentionally harmed non-combatants in the Gaza Strip. He added, this happens in war. The judge in former President Trump's Manhattan trial issues a partial gag order. He says Trump cannot attack DA Alvin Bragg or witnesses, prosecutors, court staff, or their relatives, especially on social media. Hunter Biden's attempt to have his criminal tax charges dismissed is being rejected by a federal judge. He's facing several fraud charges, of course. A temporary channel is now open around Baltimore's Francis Scott Key Bridge, the port of Baltimore's one of the country's busiest ports. The city of Denver will close 3 of the remaining 4 hotel shelters for illegal immigrants this week. Denver expects to spend $120 million to house illegal immigrants this year. Spokesman John Ewing.
If you could just put everybody in one facility and you have the means to do so, yeah, it is cheaper. It's also just easier on everyone. It's easier even on the nonprofits so they can get in there and work with people and they're not spread all over the place.
Tyson Langhofer from Alliance Defending Freedom on with Jeff and Billy this morning. They are defending a group in Oklahoma who wants school choice, but the newest public charter school is a virtual school run by a religious organization.
So all they're doing is giving parents more choice. Do you want to go use these funds to go to a secular charter school? Then do that. Do you want them to go to a Catholic charter school? Then you can do that. And we believe that parents and children are better off when Oklahoma has more choices.
Langhofer says the key has to be demand and parent driven. And the kinder, gentler President Biden with his positivity spin. And I think he forgets the word COVID in here, I think.
We're in a situation where the lowest unemployment rate in 50 years is maintained. We have people look, I think we're going to find out that what happened is a consequence of the crisis we had in health.
The crisis we had, pretty slick, actually. The crisis we had in health.
Dude,
that's pretty good.
These politicians who are like, oh, the employment rate's so low because everybody's got to work 2 jobs just to live the way they did 5 years ago. It's just, oh, man, the ability to just spin and spin. So
it's amazing.
You look great.
Listen to this. Listen to the rest of it. It's great.
Is going to have a lasting effect, and we just got to get people to move again. We're ready. I mean, I think the country's ready to come together.
The country's ready to come together.
He's really brought them together. Easter was a great example. And the day after, when we had so many phone calls and text messages, he's bringing them together in one way. That's for sure.
And it was probably your phone calls were probably split down the middle.
Right.
All right. 39 in Parker, 38 in Boulder, 41 in Denver. Caitlin Clark at Iowa over LSU. They move on in the women's tourney. The Astros, Ronel Blanco with the first no-hitter of the season. The Rockies shut out by the Cubs 5-0. Opening day at Coors Field is Friday at 2:10. Avalanche lose to the Blue Jackets. Nuggets play host to the Spurs tonight. And my sons and my daughter going to that one. So say hello to all my former employees, or not employees, but co-workers. They should have fun tonight. Jeff and Bill, have a great rest of the day as the Jeff and Bill show continues. Blake Olson, News Talk 710 KNUS.
The 710 5-day forecast calls for some very pleasant spring weather here in Denver and along the Front Range for the next few days. Warming to the upper 50s and sunny today. Breezy north winds, clear tonight, low to mid 30s. Mostly sunny Wednesday, good looking day. Mid to upper 60s, upper 30s Wednesday night. Highs will be low 70s Thursday, low 70s Friday. And we're looking at temperatures starting Saturday mild, but Saturday night and Sunday sharply colder with showers. Meteorologist Don Day, 710 KNUS.
All right, so you know the deal. What's happening down at the state capitol? Democrats in the House have a supermajority. They can pretty much do whatever they want. They got Elizabeth Epps and Tim Hernandez, and it's just a wonderful clown show down there. Senate, near supermajority. I think they're one vote away from a near supermajority in the Senate. So the Democrats at the state capitol have absolute total control. When Republicans go down there and either try to advance their bills or try to stop the Democrats' bills, they don't even listen to you, right? They just dismiss you entirely. And so as a conservative in Colorado, it can be a little frustrating. Some tough times out there. There's this interesting video that popped up the other day that I noticed on social media of somebody agreeing with the Democrats. But the Democrats seem to get very angry and upset about this. This was Scott Shamblin down talking about a pro-choice bill.
Thank you. Chairperson and honorable members of the committee, thank you for the privilege to speak today. My name is Scott Shamblin, he, him. I am a proud Democrat and especially proud of our great history. While I am not a birthing person, I am a fertilizing person, and I oppose this bill. The very idea that such a bill would be proposed is an act of violence on birthing and fertilizing persons alike. It is a threat to our way of life. It is a threat to my way of life. I want to start by telling you of my lived experience. In the last 2 years, I've personally seen how this issue is a birthing person's issue. 7 of my partners over the last 2 years became pregnant. 7. And you know what? Babies are the woman's issue, and they took care of their issues appropriately. How, you might ask? For abortion. Had I not had this option, I would be a parent to at least 7 different children with 7 different birthing mothers. This is unacceptable. It would ruin me financially and completely destroy my self-indulgent way of life. If abortion becomes illegal, I will be unable to continue exercising my freedoms without consequence and actually be held accountable for my actions. I am fortunate to have had a Darwinian education. It is immoral to painfully prolong the survival of the weak when we could remove them from the equation to accelerate our evolutionary progress. I am a proud supporter of Planned Parenthood's legacy. It's doing exactly as our foremother, Margaret Sanger, peace be upon her, designed it to do, to keep the poor, undesirable, genetically inferior populations down by intentionally putting Planned Parenthoods in communities dominated by the genetically inferior. We have successfully crumbled these communities. It is good and merciful to abort pregnancies that won't have an easy life. A life of financial struggle, mental health issues, physical disabilities, discrimination, systemic racism, and any discomfort at all is not a life worth living. We should not allow someone to live if they cannot live, laugh, love their best life. This is the democratic way. Thank you for the opportunity to speak. All hail Gorlock the Destroyer.
And the Democrats stand there stunned, not
Thank you.
sure what to.
And testimony takes a lot of forms, sometimes satire, and a wink to the bill sponsor tells us all we need. We appreciate you being here this evening. Please hold for questions.
That's about 15 seconds of stunned silence because Scott essentially used talking points from the Democrats against themselves. Joining us on the Jeff and Bill show is Scott Shamblin and Nicole McBurney. They're co-hosts of the Scott and Nicole Network. Thanks so much for being on the Jeff and Bill show.
Welcome.
Thanks for having us, Jeff.
So,
And Bill.
tell us how you came up with the idea of using satire against the leftists down at the state capitol.
So we were at the Capitol to testify on Rep. Bottom's pro-life abortion abolition bill a couple weeks ago. And we're like, we know it's not going to pass. It's the Democrats, they own the whole place. It's not going to pass. So I figured, hey, what do we have to lose? So I texted Nicole and like, hey, I think I want to do a satire. That was 10 a.m. that day. We were heard at like, I don't know, 8:30, 9 p.m. And Nicole's response was,
absolutely, you have to do it. Let me help you with that. So as soon as he said that, I got all excited and we just started going back and forth with ideas. And so he started a Google Doc, sent it to me and was like, just help me on this thing. And we worked on that for how long, Scott? Like 2-3 hours until you were called up?
it was, I think it was more like 5 hours.
Oh, was it? Okay.
Yeah, so that morning I
felt
woke
like
up
a
not
last
knowing-
minute thing. So
And these videos have gone viral since you have posted them, hundreds of thousands of views, I believe, right? And other channels have picked them up. I mean, it's a unique moment, right? Because you're in many ways doing what the Babylon Bee does, which you satire the left, but in many ways it almost borderlines on truth because you can use their own words, their own statements. So like in this case, like what Margaret Sanger believed about abortion and going after people of color, going after the poor, eugenics, that was all very true. And so you're using the left's own concept, even if they're not popular, and showcasing to them. What was the response in the room when the lawmakers heard this?
I'll give you the play-by-play on this specific testimony that you just played. The first minute, the Republicans, they were just mad. Like they were listening. They're like, this guy, what a narcissist. Who is this guy?
A fertilizing person who's impregnated 7 people.
And during that same first minute, the Democrats, they were nodding along. They were like, I could see that. Then the coin flipped. They realized, oh, this is not good. The Democrats were all upset. The Republicans were laughing. They were actually laughing. So when I finally looked up and looked over at the Republicans, they were all smiling, giving me thumbs up. And then the chair, that was Rep. Bosnecker, he was so upset. He was so upset. That's why he called me out at the end like that.
Right, because he had to dismiss what you were saying as satire. He couldn't even just let it sit there. He had to address you directly, which is part of the brilliance on this. Here, you did it a few days later on a gun control ban.
Chairperson and honorable members of the committee, thank you for the opportunity to speak today. My name is Scott Shamblin, they, them. I represent myself. I'm an anti-fascist democratic socialist, and it's good to see a fellow comrade propose this bill. I'm a student of human rights with emphasis on gun control. I support this bill. Whether it's Tuesday or today, it's a good day to revoke the 2A. You may hear people today who say, when seconds matter, the police are minutes away. The answer is not that difficult. Defund the police and send out unarmed, non-threatening social workers who can de-escalate using gentle parenting techniques like positive reinforcement and Werther's Original Candies. To all you gun owners out there are no bad guys, just people who do bad things. And usually it's because they're hangry. So maybe trade your S&P for a Snickers and tea and make a new friend. If thought corrupts language, language can also corrupt thought. Another benefit of this bill is it helps us continue cleaning up the dictionary. Standard capacity magazines are referred to as high capacity magazines. Arma light rifles are assault weapons. Small caliber plastic pistols are now high caliber weapons of war. Similar to our other recent additions, like minor attracted persons and views opposing ours being fascism. I'm so proud of the progress we've made. Let's expand this bill to continue incrementally outlawing guns, boiling the frog slowly, if you will. After this bill, we should plan an actual gun roundup as we pull the fourth and go door to door. You can put people at ease by reminding them that I'm from the government and I'm here to help. After seizing all firearms, we can expand this to our opposition's cars, homes, semi-trucks, bank accounts, retirement accounts, and wives. We should also go ahead and amend the bill to include hard and heavy objects. If a radical were to throw a can of corn at a high velocity, it too would be an assault weapon. Everything should be soft and squishable, just like my masculinity, so nobody gets hurt. War is peace, freedom is slavery, ignorance is strength. Daddy Joe is my waifu. Thank you.
Okay. All right. No, come on. All right. Some witnesses may choose to use a humorous approach in their testimony. That is their prerogative. We need to keep it professional and respectful in here, please. With that, are there questions of this panel? Rep. Herod.
Thank you, Mr. Chair. And just to clarify, you can use humor. We love humor. You just can't clap after it.
No,
okay?
they don't. They don't love humor. All right. So again, that's Scott Shamblin and his writing partner, Nicole McBurney, co-host of the Scott and Nicole Network, lambasting the left down at the Colorado State Capitol, using their own terms, using their own ideas against them. And look, Scott, I've testified a bunch down at the state capitol, and I mean, we would represent a think tank. So it's very serious. It's very formal. This is the position of the think tank. And they would just sit there and scroll on their phones and ignore us the whole time. They didn't care. They were going to vote with us anyways. Your ability to get under their skin and get a reaction out of them by using comedy and humor is pretty remarkable. Tell us about that particular testimony.
That one. So that one we had heads up. We started a couple days before. We're like, okay, this is what we need to do, because this bill, we had I think 600 people testifying against it. It was the assault weapon ban, and I was like, you know what? We'll layer it with historical. We'll layer it with Orwell. Just everything that anybody on our side would notice, but they would agree with. And that when the whole room erupted, the overflow room down the hall, they erupted. We broke their decorum. They didn't like that very much.
And Nicole, tell us about the writing process on that one.
Yeah, so pretty much similar deal. Scott was like, that after the abortion ban one, we were like, this was just so much fun. We have to do this again. So he starts looking for other testimonies we could do, and he finds a few. And so we started writing actually several testimonies for various bills and stuff. And so we have a few. I think we have a couple more coming up that we're going to do. But overall, it's just we start throwing ideas out and just working our way through them. Adding more comedy as much as we can. We're just saying the quiet part out loud, and they really don't like that. So it's a lot of fun.
Text message here. Scott Shamblin speaking truth through humor. Love it. What's the response you get from the left? I mean, these videos have gone viral, hundreds of thousands of views online. What's the response you get from the left?
That I should be the left. Some of them agree. They don't realize it's satire.
Yeah.
The
amount of people who don't realize it's satire is actually astonishing. I don't think they watched the full video.
We're going to ban cans of corn? High velocity cans of corn?
Absolutely. On my way out from that assault weapon ban testimony, I got accosted in the parking lot by one of the commie mommies, otherwise known as Moms for Common Sense Gun Control, or whatever their organization is. They started yelling at me saying, I think you're really privileged. F you. Like, okay, sure, whatever. I keep going, walk to my car, I'm fine. But the real funny reactions are the people on our side, on the conservative side. They actually agree with my views, but they don't realize that it's satire. So they're like calling for my castration. They're calling for like insane asylums.
So they think you're an actual leftist that embraces all these ideas.
Yeah. It's bizarre. But like, I agree with you.
All right, here's the last one. You take on furries in this one. And by the way, the looks, and you can't see this on video, but if you go to their website and their Twitter account, you can watch. What's your Twitter handle? What's your Instagram handle?
Twitter is Scott Nicole Show. It's at Scott Nicole Show. Instagram is Scott Nicole Network.
Okay. So you can go watch these in person because he sits up there at the table with other liberals, other leftists, and he starts to give these testimonies. And then you see them look over and they don't know what to do because they don't know whether to agree with it or to disagree. They don't know what's happening. And in this one, you get a reaction out of a lawmaker. She is not happy with you.
Okay, I think you know the routine. Please state your name and who you are representing, and then go ahead with your testimony.
Chairperson and members of the committee, thank you for the opportunity to speak. My name is Scott Shamblin, they, them. I'm a teacher and gender spirituality therapist. I represent myself and I support this bill. Affirming through state law non-legal name changes for minors in school is absolutely crucial to preventing mental health trauma, drug overdoses, and self-harm. We must do everything we can to take care of these children. This is such an easy and harmless step to equality for all. Ultimately, a child's welfare is the responsibility of the state. Parents have no right to interfere with their children's expression of identity or the affirmation thereof by their educators. We often see examples of parents oppressing their children, not allowing mental health days, not giving allowances, overbearing household chores, and limiting screen time. I've seen children choose to go by their chosen name of Fido, Spike, and Chardonnay. It's so beautiful. Colorado's furry population is exploding, and having the schools address children with their chosen name is a great first step to the future of species affirmation. Furries are on a journey of self-discovery, often with the support of a trusted mentor or teacher. This journey reflects personal and creative expression, and affirming a person's new name solidifies their lived experience. Some furries experience invisible disabilities like phantom tail syndrome, overaggressive scent, and dogtism. And on top of that, many of the furry community experience heavy discrimination. Most pet stores refuse to give them basic haircuts, let alone a full body trim.
Sir, are you talking to the bill?
I am.
How?
Non-legal name changes in schools. This is one step in affirming these children, along with many other discriminatory things that are currently going on.
Keep going. I may interrupt you again because it just didn't seem like you were going down a path that went to this bill. And you have about, well, I'll give you 10 more seconds.
Okay. They lack quality medical care as well. Vet clinics refuse to provide basic preventative care, forcing them to self-administer parvo vaccines, dewormers from Petco, and ivermectin. Please support the groomers and furry children during this trying time. I urge a yes vote. From the White House to the sea, Palestine shall be free, and the Canine and Feline Association of Authentic Chinese Cuisine. You
Okay,
are what you
I've had it. Okay, stop it. Next witness, please.
Stop it. Stop it. You got scolded like she was your mom or something in that testimony.
Oh, she was so upset. That was non-legal name changes for minors in schools. So we had all the militant trans activists down there. I was sitting next to one of them. You can see him on the video. And she was so upset. Both the person next to me and the senator, they were so upset. And we toned it down a lot. At the beginning of that hearing, she basically gave a warning, like, you must be respectful, do not violate my decorum. And so, like, okay, well, we're gonna have to tone this down a lot. We're not gonna be able to affectionately refer to teachers that turn children on to the furry lifestyle as groomers, not as the radical rights wanna say it. But it was, we unfortunately had to tone that one down, but it still worked great.
And you even used some liberal language against it. You experienced actual violence by her scolding you like that.
I did. I have PTSD now.
And then the person sitting next to you tweeted about the experience as well, and she's got kind of a mohawk in her profile picture, but she had some words for you.
She did. I forget what the tweet was. I don't have it in front of me, but she was not pleased. She called me out on Twitter, not directly because she didn't know my handle, but yeah, she was not happy at all either.
you could see the moment in that video when she just realized what you're doing, and she's just like, scooched away a little bit.
She literally scooched.
And it takes them a second to realize, which is funny because at first they all agree with you. They're like, yeah, solidarity. And then they start to realize it and they start to slowly scoot away. Why do you think in this environment, Democrat total control, state level, state house, state Senate, why do you think this is important to do?
It's just exposing the, I would call it, evil nature of what they're trying to push. I believe I'm a Christian first and foremost. Because I'm a Christian, I'm also a conservative. And I believe the family is the most fundamental building block of society. When you're trying to destroy the family, which this is what they're doing, they're with all these new bills they're putting out. They're trying to change definitions of marriage. I think this session, they're trying to remove parental involvement in their children's lives. They're trying to make them wards of the state, pretty much. They're trying to destroy the family. And we've seen how that works out. We've seen Black America. They've incentivized since the 50s or 60s single parenthood, which we see how that works out. We have no fathers there, and now their entire communities crumbled. So I think it's important to expose that. Expose it for what it is.
And Nicole, why are you a part of this?
Yeah, pretty much for the same reason, like Scott said. I'm a Christian, and really, what we're doing, as much fun as it is to just kind of make fun of them and watch the left get all upset about this, just by saying the quiet part out loud. We're doing this in the spirit of 1 Corinthians 10:31, do all for the glory of God. So what we want to do is just kind of bring to light the insanity of the godless heathens, the leftists. They really are a cult of death. So we want to expose that. And so hopefully some people on the left will kind of stop and think about it, like, oh, well, when you say it like that, this is actually pretty bad, isn't it? And then, hopefully they'll turn to God and repent, come to our side. So that's the main goal that we're doing this, is we want to bring God back into our culture primarily. And this is one of the ways we do it. Satire is one of the tools we're using.
You're getting a text message here. One that originally thought that this was an actual testimony. I got an answer for this old boy. Keep your pants up and cover it more. And then he realizes it's a ruse and goes, it was righteous. Thank you very much. That was another one. Good job, Jeff. Scott and Nicole are hilarious. So give them your handles for Instagram and Twitter one more time.
Yeah, the primary Instagram and Twitter handles, Twitter or X is @ScottNicole_show. Instagram is Scott Nicole Network. And then I also post a lot on my personal X or Twitter account, which is Scott P. Shamblin. That's Shamblin with an SH on X.
All right. And you said you have a few more videos coming out here soon?
Oh, yeah.
We do. I was at the Capitol all day yesterday, but I had to leave before my name was called. It was so sad.
Yeah.
Well,
they'll make you wait for hours and hours, and then Scott's like, I can't be here anymore. I have other places to be.
I know. They would do the same thing for me. They knew, especially when I was from the Centennial Institute, they would make me the very last one to go. So I'd wait until 2, 3 in the morning to be able to testify. I get it. Well, we'll look forward to those videos. Thank you for using humor and satire in a state that sometimes can feel very depressing to ridicule and rub the left a little bit. I appreciate it. Scott Shamblin and Nicole McBurney, co-hosts of the Scott and Nicole Network. Thanks so much for being on the Jeff and Bill Show.
Thank you so much for having us.
Imagine effortlessly gliding open your cabinets and drawers to reveal neatly arranged shelves that showcase your belongings. With roll-em-out shelves, you'll easily access your pots, pans, and other essentials, eliminating chaos and increasing speed and functionality in your home. Roll-em-out shelves understands that every home storage needs are unique. Whether you're dealing with tight corners or expansive cabinets, your shelves will be custom built to maximize every inch of available space. Joyce and Brent Tolliver, the mom and son dynamic duo, leave satisfied customers wherever they go, and their all 5-star reviews confirm this. Here's what some overjoyed customers have said. Joyce and Brent listened to our needs, stayed on schedule, and found solutions to our specific problems. We are so happy with our kitchen that we are now planning to do our bathroom as well. Begin the affordable transformation in your home for less than $1,000 when Roll 'Em Out Shelves efficiently organizes your space with sturdy Baltic birch shelves built right here in Colorado and guaranteed for life. Call for your free in-home estimate today, 303-475-9601. That's 303-475-9601 or rollemoutshelves.com. Tell them Jeff sent you, rollemoutshelves.com. We'll get your calls and texts. You're listening to The Jeff and Bill Show.
News Talk 710, KNUS.
All right, welcome back to the Jeff and Bill Show. We just hosted Scott Shamblin and Nicole McBurney. They are using satire to kind of roast the left down at the state capitol. Did you think that was effective? Do you like it? Is it good for conservatives to have a little chuckle every now and then? When I go down there, it's direct confrontation, right? Your ideas are wrong. My ideas are right. Rah, rah, rah. And then they come in with a little bit of satire and people laugh and have a good time.
They were very clever writers. I really appreciate what they're doing and what they bring to the table. And again, I stayed out of most of that conversation because you did a great job with it. You were doing a wonderful job opening up what they did and walking them through the process. There was nothing I was going to ask them about or anything else. And we weren't getting it into an ideological discussion because it's not, again, why they were asked here. Yeah. And I wholeheartedly support everything they are doing as far as getting down there and pointing out the silliness. The thing they had on gun rights was fantastic. That was really, really well written. Again, didn't agree with everything they had in there, but I don't have to. Yep. But what they're doing is wonderful. And in all honesty, I wish more of the people down there would approach it that way. I think it would add a lot to the conversation, especially because it allows you to point out the ridiculousness on the other side without saying, you guys are a bunch of silly clowns. Yep. It's a very intelligent, clever way to do it. And I wholeheartedly support it. And I hope they come back. It's great. It's really
we'll
cool.
see. They're just starting out. Just got 3 videos. So it's fun to get people as they're rising up. All right, my fellow Catholic in the studio.
Yes.
I would like to get your take on this. This is the Archbishop of Washington, D.C. He had some comments about Joe Biden and his faith. Fair critique or not?
I would say that he's very sincere about his faith. But like a number of Catholics, he picks and chooses dimensions of the faith to highlight while ignoring or even contradicting other parts. There is a phrase that we have used in the past, a cafeteria Catholic. You choose that which is attractive and dismiss that which is challenging.
Or, as Thomas Aquinas would say, you allow your conscience to guide you.
Is there something on the menu he's not ordering, in your view?
Well,
so to speak?
I would say there are things, especially in terms of the life issues, there are things that he chooses to ignore, or he uses the current situation as a political pawn rather than saying, look, my church believes this. I'm a good Catholic. I would like to believe this. Rather than to twist and turn some dimensions of the faith as a political advantage.
It's also possible to be a practitioner of the faith as a public leader and not require everyone that you lead in your country to be guided by all of the precepts of your faith, right?
And in my coverage of him, it seems
that's
what he
how-
believes.
That's what I would interpret.
Your concern is that he should be more explicit in his own personal belief, which is a
Yes.
personal opposition to abortion,
Mm.
but an understanding that as a public leader and
That-
in a free society, he's
Right.
not to be
He's not to hold. He's
placing
not
that on it.
Fair critique? Joe Biden, cafeteria Catholic?
Yeah, it's fair. But I think that many Christians are cafeteria Christians in many ways. And I think that many individuals pick and choose portions of the faith that resonate more with them and discount ones that don't. And I think it goes universally. Do more of the Catholics do it? Oh, absolutely. Sure. Absolutely. Yeah. And there are reasons for that, in my opinion. And there are some big, huge, giant disagreements inside both the Catholic Church, but the Christian Church. And we aren't always the best at coming together. We tend to either want to call the people we disagree with heretics or excommunicate them. So having a gentle discussion, it's not our strong suit. That is not the thing that we do. So, but it is a fair critique, but I think it's also a fair acknowledgement that there's a difference between saying, this is what I believe as a Catholic or a Christian, and this is what the state needs to do because I'm a Catholic or a Christian. I think that's a fair point. The other thing that I found interesting in the filter was the critique of Biden's Catholicism being absent from a critique of what I view as the absence of religious affiliation in the other choice for president.
Yeah.
I just find that a very interesting choice where the people that I hear that are most adherent to the faith that we share find their person, the person they're going to choose to in the binary choice to be the person that is furthest away from their faith. And I find that very interesting, especially when the critique of Biden is a cafeteria Catholic versus the other person. I think that's interesting. I think it's an interesting religious choice where that guy, or Trump, based on his lack of complete, what I see, religiosity and religious faith, that's the choice. That's the guy that the faithful is going to choose. Okay, you're choosing, your vote. And do whatever you want with it. You can vote like I might for literally anybody else if he's on the ballot here. So who knows?
That's who
do what you want with your
Bill
vote.
is advocating for. Let's go to John in just a second. Men, you've heard a lot about how treating low testosterone can improve your sleep, your workouts, your energy levels, and more. But I want to talk to you about your love drive, because low testosterone can have a significant impact on your desire for intimacy. And if you're in a relationship or wanting to be in a relationship, a low love drive can be a real problem. There's good news. Go to RockyMountainMen'sClinic.com and take the low T quiz on their website. It's a simple 10-question quiz with yes or no answers. It takes 2 minutes. Then schedule a consult with Rocky Mountain Men's Clinic. A Colorado licensed medical provider will review your results with you and discuss your options. Cost of the appointment's only $99, which includes medical consult, a T and PSA test. If you sign up for testosterone treatment the day of your appointment, well, your visit is free. Rocky Mountain Men's Clinic has served the Front Range of Colorado for nearly a decade and successfully treated tens of thousands of men. Call them today at 720-440-7900. That's 720-440-7900. Or visit RockyMountainMen'sClinic.com. That's RockyMountainMen'sClinic.com. Let's go to John in Denver. John, you're on the Jeff and Bill show, News Talk 710 KNUS. Good morning.
Miles of smiles on your radio dial.
I haven't heard that in a while. That's great.
I know that you had a little trouble in the morning. You're talking about private schools. Didn't get a lot of calls. And you have those folks at the end. Reminded me of my education. I'm a product of Catholic schools. I would say your mileage might vary. Some only get inches. But I did learn Latin, like Jeff was mentioning. Esplamato es vita, and here and there. But I do remember the kids in the back of the room, the ones who weren't really smart, but maybe said smart blank things, and it really kind of reminded me of those folks down at the Capitol there making those jokes. More power to them.
I thought they were pretty high. I thought they were pretty intellectual jokes. The writing was pretty high level writing, I thought.
Well, I definitely think that jokes are the best that you can do since you're not passing any legislation at the Capitol. Probably better to be the class clowns.
Do you think that technique has a point in the conversation? Do you think it could be an effective rhetorical device to point out idiocy or the lack of thinking things through on the other side?
You can be clever, but as in Latin, you either have a talented tongue or you're going to get the back of the ruler. You're either passing legislation or you're on the outside making jokes, and that's fine. But the question is, are you getting things done or are you in the back of the room?
Do you think the Democrats are getting things done?
I do.
For who?
Well, for the majority of Colorado, the constituents who voted for them.
Yeah.
Now, you don't like those things,
yeah,
but they are getting done.
I'd like to know what you think those things are that are getting done. What's something they've passed down there that you think has really benefited the people of Colorado?
Well, there's a variety of issues that touch on it. For example, today we were talking about schools. We are now officially past the point where funding is going to schools rather than paying down past measures, correct?
Yeah, they've been able to fully fund the schools, right?
Fully fund the schools, and I know that's not one. That's a little language jump, but it's the correct thing for getting legislation moved down the pipe and saying, hey, we're getting appropriate funding levels to be able to educate your kids based on what we have set out and what we've done.
All right, John.
So
John from Denver. Appreciate the call. John's line's open. If you want to
interesting.
give us a call, 303-696-1971. He sees those using the kind of satire, mocking the Democrats down there as well. You're not the ones in power, so I guess that's all you can do.
Yeah, and I guess that many of the people that go down there to the Capitol and there and testify aren't the ones necessarily in power. And I feel they should be allowed to give that voice and that they should listen. However, I remain unconvinced that the individuals behind the dais and behind the lawmakers listening, I'm not convinced that any of the testimony changes a single mind. I think every person
exactly
sitting
right.
there that is going to vote has already decided their vote, and they're just like, okay, let whatever falls out of your pie hole fall out of your pie hole.
I
and
will
I
sit
don't
here
care.
for 12 hours and deal
Yes,
with it.
yeah, because this is a part of the job. I think that's just it.
Jeff, on here for my friends at Dan Caplis Law. Dan suggested you should choose a lawyer who shares your values because who you choose to represent you in an injury case says a lot about you to everyone involved in the case. Dan Caplis is the son of a police officer. Dan is also a former seminarian. Dan has dedicated the last 40 years of his life to helping people who are hurt in serious motor vehicle crashes. Dan is believed to be the only lawyer in Colorado history to win, get this, 5 straight multi-million-dollar verdicts in Colorado crash cases. Dan is also believed to have won the largest truck crash verdict in Colorado history. Dan Caplis Law is the official law firm partner of the Denver Nuggets and the Colorado Avalanche. Dan Caplis Law is a serious law firm for serious cases. Dan accepts righteous injury cases on a percentage fee basis so that he can represent good people from all walks of life without regard to ability to pay. If you need Dan's help, call 303-770-5551. That's 303-770-5551, or hit dancaplisLaw.com. That's Dan, C-A-P-L-I-S law.com. Appreciate all the text messages coming in. We'll get to your phones as well. You're listening to the Jeff and Bill Show.
News Talk 710, KNUS.
been a wild show. I appreciate everybody tuning in during the 6 o'clock hour. We talked Governor of Virginia, Glenn Youngkin, rejecting commercialized pot,
And he made
saying
you a
that
star.
winning states don't legalize pot.
That's not the important part. You're missing the important part. The fact that the governor cited you and the study
did.
that you did here in Colorado about marijuana and the commercialization of it. That's the important part of what he
It's
said.
true.
That is
It's true.
exactly
Well,
it, my friend.
I appreciate it. The big thing for me is though that we're not commercializing pot in every state in this country, which it's a grand experiment, right? Oregon, you're gonna go do stupid things like decriminalize all drugs and then have to rewind that. In other states like Virginia going, no thanks. I appreciate that. But yes, he did cite the study from the Centennial Institute back in 2018 that looked at the
so cool.
social cost versus tax revenue that came in. And man, I've debated that study a lot.
I bet.
And my response was always, okay, so what's the number? People are like, this doesn't cover everything. I'm like, okay, so what's your number?
Yeah.
We don't have a
exactly.
number.
That's a
I'm
good
like, all
point.
right.
Yeah, well, then we're going to use my number. You don't have one. And that's fair.
That's right. That's right. Reason Magazine and I had a really fun discussion about that one.
Really? Oh, that would be fun.
Yeah.
Man,
And
that'd be
then
good.
Tyson Langhofer from Alliance Defending Freedom joined us in the 7 o'clock hour. There's a U.S. Supreme Court case working its way up. It's in Oklahoma now that could allow religious-based charter schools to be formed all over the country.
Yeah, soon here in Colorado, the Church of Satan could have its own online school. Yay, kids! I'm being facetious, but I'm kind of not.
He didn't deny that.
I know.
He did not deny that.
Yeah, that's the interesting part of this.
8 o'clock hour, Mike Johnston and the Democrats in the city of Denver have had enough of illegal immigrants, actually. They're buying them bus tickets to other cities at this point.
Yeah, they're going, about that Governor Abbott thing, about sending them somewhere else. Maybe not so bad. Maybe he's got a point.
Scott Shamblin and Nicole McBurney joined us in the 9 o'clock hour. They have been using satire to mock the Democrats that have total control down at the state capitol on some of their bills, and their videos are hilarious. So
About darn time.
if you missed any of this, go to 710knus.com to listen to our podcast or watch us on the YouTube channel. You can watch all of that over there. Tomorrow, I want to get into J.K. Rowling.
Yeah, that's going to be
Directly
interesting.
confronting Scotland over some laws. She's willing to essentially challenge them. Take me to jail.
Yeah,
if
she's
you
willing
disagree
to.
with me.
She said she will spend 2 years in jail in order to challenge this law. She said that's how strongly she feels about not being forced to use a transgendered person's chosen pronouns. She'd prefer to spend time in prison.
If you don't know who J.K. Rowling is, she's the author of the Harry Potter series. So taking a very strong stand. We'll cover all of that tomorrow. You're not going to want to miss the Jeff and Bill show. Right after us is Charlie Kirk, so stick around for him. You've been listening. We love you, Denver. You've been listening to the Jeff and Bill show.
News Talk 710, KNUS. Have a great day.